Jay Crawford, Adam the Bull, Garrett Bush, and so many big names, it would take me hours to say all of their names. The ultimate Cleveland sports show. Booyah!
Here we go.
Yes.
Woo, 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 woo. Thursday, 3 days to game day. Welcome to the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. We're talking Ravens and Browns.
Lot to get to.
Thursday just crept right up on us, didn't it?
We're going to pretend that there's trash talking by the Ravens.
Yeah,
Not trash talk. You know trash talk when you see it.
Yeah.
We'll get into that. That was not trash talk.
By the way, before you get into anything else, Jay, I've got 2 complaints I've got to share with you. Okay?
Shoot 'em.
Number one, it's been a big ongoing issue here at the Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show, the tainted water. This has been a continuing problem.
Are we still drinking it?
And Anthony said, well, we got a new case of water. Check it out. Tell me what you think. It was even worse.
That's from my crib.
It tasted
is that
even
yours?
worse.
No, mine's right here, but I bought an extra.
Now we got to bring our own. We got to pay for our own water. What's happening here?
Yeah, some of this water that you can get at the grocery store was like, $1 for a pallet.
Yeah.
It's tap water, I'm telling you.
It probably is. But this tap water is polluted. I don't know what.
That tap.
Bull, I do apologize for lying to you. The one bottle I pulled out of it tasted fine for like the first 3 sips, so I thought it was okay.
I don't know. It's gross. And second, I don't know if anybody thinks about this but me, but we have an epidemic of people who are inappropriate parkers in many ways. But I want to talk about one specific type of inappropriate parker. When you park in a garage, like we park in a garage here at the TV studio, or outdoor, indoor, doesn't matter. You go to a mall, whatever it is. When you park, guys, do you make sure that A, you have enough room to get out of your car?
Absolutely, you
and
better.
B, that the person next to you has room to get out of the car, so they have room to be nice and they don't smash into your car trying to get in.
Yeah, I mean, that's a karma repay.
People, I don't know. Listen, I get it.
Yep.
I'm fatter than the average person, so
you're thinking about this more than most.
I need a little more space than a typical person.
Mind, right there.
But G. Bush, you need room to get out. You're a large human being.
So you got to get skinny. You got to get.
But you know what? Hips. There's just so skinny you can get.
You got to be flexible.
There are times when there's been a couple of times where I get out of them. I come back to my car, and the person parked next to me left me like 2 inches.
So then, do you get in the passenger seat and climb over?
I can't do that.
You can't.
I'm not flexible enough.
So have you ever been in a spot where you just couldn't get in your car?
And you just sat there and waited?
Fortunately, the only time that has happened, there was twice that's happened.
Yeah.
Fortunately, my wife was with me,
and
she gets in the car, backs up the car, and then I get in and drive.
That's funny.
I always make sure that the person on both sides of me, especially if somebody else backed in or whatever, that they can get into their car without a problem.
Yeah. Now, I've been stuck a time or two where there's one spot, and the guy who's parked on either my left or right is on the line or over it.
That happens.
Now, what are you going to do?
That's
you got to get in
spot.
there. It's the only spot.
That is a tough spot. There are circumstances, but most of the times that's not the case.
And here's the thing.
Yeah.
If you don't want a door ding, don't do that.
That's right.
Because I've seen people intentionally getting into their car when there's a very limited amount of space.
That's right. Boom.
Fling that door open
Right.
and ding the heck out of the other car door.
That's right.
And
because you
that's
got Jay, you got a nice car. G's got a fancy car.
You don't want
Jason
dings
spent $1
on
million
it.
on his car. Well, you don't want that. The person next to you might have some trashy car from 1986,
And they don't care.
And they're smashing into you.
They don't care.
No.
All right, so be kind to your fellow man.
That's right. That's all I'm
Think before
saying.
you park, people.
Yes.
This
It's
public
very
service
simple.
announcement brought to you by the Ultimate Cleveland Sports
Yes,
Show.
absolutely.
Aditi's here.
Yes.
We've got the Ravens beat writer from The Athletic here. We're going behind enemy lines. We do it every week.
Yeah.
We want to find out what's going on with this club. No better way to do it than to get a beat writer on.
Yeah.
Tito's farewell last night. Not sure you could have scripted it any better. I'm really not.
No, that was good.
It came down to a very, very close and late call that would have had the tying run in scoring position with one out. The call that was made on the field was upheld. I'm not sure it should have been, but it worked out well for Tito, and his farewell was just fantastic. We'll talk about that and so much more on today's Ultimate Cleveland Sports Show. But first, our very first hello and good day to Mikey McNuggets.
What's up, guys?
How you doing,
It is a
buddy?
beautiful Thursday. The week has flown by.
Wow.
That's what happens when you win on Monday. The rest of the week flies.
Is that
if you
is that
lose
the
on
case?
Sunday
I think so.
or Sunday, excuse me, not Monday. If you lose on Sunday, the week drags. When you win, it flies.
Yeah, I
That
know
is
this
correct.
one has flown by.
I was like, I thought it was
Yeah.
Wednesday, dog.
Yeah.
No?
I agree with that.
Tomorrow we're on Channel 3 again, guys.
We are.
We are
Third time.
back, and it is a good time to remind the people that if you have a chance, do us a favor. Check us out on Channel 3 tomorrow at 12:30. The last half hour of the show is 30 minutes of never-before-seen Browns-Ravens preview content. You can only find that on Channel 3 WKYC. We have moved up for half an hour a week from the YouTube realm to the linear TV realm, and we're in the homes of upwards of 2 million people potentially. So if you're one of those 2 million with cable, turn on Channel 3 tomorrow at 12:30.
Can I make a recommendation to Ant?
Please.
If we go back to that graphic, those 4 people, and of course the McNugget, those 4 people are the happiest people you'd ever want to see or meet. But we need a smiley face on that chicken nugget.
That's true.
Right.
Because he's kind of bringing the vibe down a
No,
little
hold
bit.
on, hold on. I'm gonna bring you behind the scenes real quick. No,
Okay.
Anthony, do not put this on. Do not put this on TV.
Please let me put it on
No,
tag.
on.
Nope.
Put it
on.
Put it on.
Do it.
Put it on.
Let me say.
Put it on.
You could
We're not going to stop, Mikey. We got
Hey,
to
Jay.
We'll show it, but
Jay.
here's the truth.
Y'all gonna have 2 new co-producers tomorrow. Ant, do it.
Here's the truth. When we showed the graphic that Anthony made, Steve, you take the graphic forward. We showed this upstairs. The suits upstairs were like, I think we should superimpose Mike onto the chicken nugget.
Oh,
And I
my
was like,
God, that
no.
would be outstanding. Like Gumby.
I was like, no, that's gonna look terrible.
That would
And they
look
said,
great.
no, let's see it. So
Yeah.
Anthony made a mock.
Oh, we've got to see. We got to
Oh,
see.
it was
you
her.
have
No,
to put
because it's
that
good.
up.
No, we've got to see. Mike, come on.
What are you kidding
The
me?
audience
I'm
wants
working
to
on it.
see this.
You have to put that up.
So we will, because Anthony has to export. Here's a tease.
By the
If
way,
you
if
stick around to the 12 o'clock hour of the show, we will show you as
That's pretty good.
McNugget.
That's
in
a great
human
tease.
incarnation.
By the way, another thing on that real quick. Go back to the graphic one more time. If you look at it really quickly, it almost looks like Jay and I are arm in arm. for
I
a
know it
second.
does.
It
That's what
does.
I said that one day when you were gone.
Oh, you did?
I said, look at this kumbaya group. Bull and I are arm in arm. And Jason looks like he just won the lottery.
And Jason's never happy.
He's
Hey,
never
He's very
smiling.
rarely
A
happy.
man should never have his mouth that wide open ever in his life. This is just-
Okay, so I just.
Don't look at. Hey, hold on. Hold
Now
on.
you
Wait,
looking
wait,
at
wait,
it.
hold on. Do not look at your guys'
Now
phones.
you looking at it.
Stop. Do not look. Steve Becker, we're going to put this up. Don't text it to him. He already did. Don't look at your phone.
Don't
Steve
look at the
texted you
phone.
the picture. I want live reactions when we show it to
Okay.
the audience later.
But we are going to do this in the noon hour.
I promise you we'll do. Steve
Oh, I
texted you.
can't
Steve,
wait.
come on. Don't go over my head. I
I'm
know you're
turning
my
my
EP,
phone
but don't
over
go
so
on my
I don't
head.
see it. Turning my phone over.
Did
Yeah,
you hear
turn
that
your phone
power
off.
struggle back there behind the glass? He just said, Steve, come on, don't go over my head on
That's
this.
right.
I know you're my boss, Steve, but this is one time where you gotta build up the drama. We'll show it.
No, that's a
in the
great
12
idea
o'clock
for a
hour.
tease.
Yeah.
Stick around until 12 o'clock if you want to see the McNugget Gumby.
That's right.
Gumby had that slope
It's
in
No,
bad.
listen, I think
thinking
we
of
should
Eddie
have a
Murphy
segment.
now.
I think we should have a segment where we actually put Mike's talking face inside a McNugget and he
right.
can talk with the McNugget around him.
Gumby was riding that horse, Davy, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Hey, Davy.
Remember when Eddie Murphy played Gumby?
Oh my God, it was
the
one of the
best.
greatest SNL skits ever. Most of our audience is too young to remember it,
Yeah,
so
right.
YouTube it, Google it. It's awesome.
Oh, God.
Okay, we ready to dive in?
Let's do it.
Okay, Roquan Smith said something yesterday that I have to admit I read the text of
course.
before I saw the soundbite.
Right.
And this is a classic example
Yep.
of when you read that text, the tops of my ears were getting hot.
Yeah.
And then I watched it and I'm like, wow, the delivery was friendly.
Yeah, right.
And, you know, it
He was actually very
non-threatening.
complimentary of the Browns.
Yeah, and so we can play it, right, Mike?
Yeah.
We can play it. We had to do a little loophole to get it on screen, but yeah, we can play it.
Okay,
So
let's play
hear
it
the
so our
sound
audience
from
can hear if they haven't.
Roquan Smith. We have 3 sound bites. This is the first one. This is the one that had the quote get taken out of and went viral yesterday on
Okay.
Twitter. So this is the full sound bite from Roquan Smith.
You're considered the bad guy because you're going into essentially another man's house and you're trying to take over, like his wife, kids, everyone there to watch them. So we going over to beat their tails in front of their wife and kids. So when you think about it from that perspective, like any man's gonna, fight to the death from that point. I know if that's me in that case, I know I would.
So
I saw wife and kids
right.
and beat their tails, and I'm
Yeah.
like, whoa.
I thought home invasion. I said,
Right.
this dude done tied my wife and my kids up. I got an apple in little Susie's mouth, and she's over there
Right.
with her arms. Any person be like, oh, listen, you done went too far. Yeah, that went too far. And then you heard
then
that.
you hear it.
And it was like, that was so
and
harmless.
when you see the video, too, he's like smiling. And he's like, hey, listen, they're a physical team.
I don't know that I'd ever seen him speak before.
Ever.
Yeah, I didn't recognize him.
I didn't either. I mean, we know him by name, and we know
Right.
his prowess on the football field. But when I saw him, I'm like, not sure I could have picked him out, number one. Number two, pleasant demeanor. None of it was ill-intended at all.
And he had number 18 on. I didn't know quite who that was.
I know. It's
I was
just
like, oh,
Well, when we first saw it, I saw Earl's tweet. Like, I don't remember exactly what Earl said, but he was basically like, won't these guys learn about talking trash? And then I watched the whole thing, and I was like, I don't see how this is talking trash.
it's not even approaching the trash talk scale.
yeah.
Right.
Because to me, trash talk is saying something derogatory about your opponent.
That's right.
And what he said was, hey, we're going into their house trying to beat them in front of their wife and kids. They're going to fight to the death.
That's
I
right.
know I would.
And
So it's actually a compliment.
And he said, every teams want to do it to us when they come to us.
Yeah.
And he also said, they're a really physical football team. We love that.
Yes.
So like.
I thought it was complimentary.
There was no insult there.
No, so on the trash talk scale,
Yeah.
1 to 10, I think it's a 0. I don't even think it qualifies.
Yeah.
I mean,
I
but,
agree. Do
but
you
I gotta
disagree,
say,
G?
when I read the text,
Right.
I
It's
was
like, oh my
pretty
God.
hot. And then I watched it, and I'm like, oh, that's kind of friendly. Like, that's there's nothing to that at
Earl,
all.
you put the tweet out originally. Do you still think it's trash talk?
No, I think my tweet said he lost his damn mind, LOL,
Right.
and I was laughing. It ain't like high level trash talk, man, but I don't know. I'm a father. Like, anybody tell me they gonna beat me in front of my wife and my kids, like, I'm gonna make sure you don't. So
Right.
he put it out there for bulletin board material.
Hey,
I
listen.
think that's the proper term. I wouldn't consider it
Yeah.
necessary trash talk.
Whatever you need, right? If the Browns want to take it and run with it,
Sure.
as bulletin board material,
Yeah.
so be it.
Yeah, if they need that to get them excited, but they don't. It's their arch rival in the division. One of their
That's
arch
right.
rivals. It's a division game. It's for first place.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, they want to go win.
So that wasn't no good one, man. If they, all you need to do is if you want to find a little, you want to get you a little, I guess, bulletin board material. That wasn't it. That what you were looking for. But I can sure find you some, because this is what
Well, Jamar Chase was.
Jamar Chase, John Harbaugh, just a little bit of time ago was being spicy. He said, I respect what Steve Bisciotti and former team president Dick Cash created here almost 10 years ago, Harbaugh said. Basically, we have kind of a zero tolerance policy. You have to know the truth, and you have to try to understand the circumstances, but we've stayed away from that particular situation.
Oh, this was a while ago.
Yeah.
That's a year and a half ago.
That's when they went to get
so
Deshaun Watson.
what's the length of trash talk counting?
The statute of limitation is only enough if you can pull it up still, if you can print it out.
Well, let me ask you this.
Yeah.
Of the 6 games that Deshaun played last year, were one of them against the Ravens?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay, then I think the statute of limitations has expired.
Well, but now let me ask you this. When the Browns, after Jamar Chase talked trash,
Right.
Browns kicked their ass.
Yeah.
And then the Browns talked trash after the game about Jamar Chase talking.
That's applicable for their next meeting.
Do the Bengals,
If they want to.
do they get to use that as bulletin board material?
I don't know that there are any international laws for length of bulletin board quotes, but I would say yes. Even though they were responding to trash talk.
Right.
If they don't clip what the Browns said about them and plaster it all over their bulletin board, they're silly. They should.
Well, to me, there's no statute of limitations for the Browns or the Ravens because the Ravens used to be the Browns. So first of all, they took your name and your colors.
Yep.
Second of all,
We didn't take our colors
our
name.
Well, they stripped you of it, and they left those here.
They took our team.
They took
the
your
team,
squad,
the players,
And they left the stuff behind that they didn't want.
and
Yes.
then had the nerve to win a Super Bowl 4 years later.
And 2 in total, right?
In 2 total. Now that's already fighting words right there.
Yes.
Then on top of that, they took your guy, Ozzie Newsome, who was one of your Hall of Famers, the only one we had. And then they turned him into the GM of the year, of the century.
Yeah.
And all he did is draft player after player after Hall of Famer after Hall of Famer. And then he retires as a Raven, and then we sitting here, we can't even find a quarterback. We whiffed on all them picks. And then finally...
So that's not trash talk. That's just rivalry stuff.
And then finally you get to a point where now you feel you have a quarterback. We watched Joe Flacco beat the brakes off of us, right? because Flacco had just as much of a winning record against the Browns as Ben Roethlisberger. Then we're like, okay, we finally here. Maybe we can draft somebody. We go to the draft, we get Baker, they get Lamar Jackson, and they win that little dance. So they've got the one up on everything we got today. No, it's different. We gonna use everything they say. We're gonna take.
That's fair.
We're gonna act like it's 1995.
I think especially for Deshaun Watson, because that comment was thrown directly at his character.
100%.
They were saying, you want to go down in the mud and sign a player like that?
Yeah.
That's you. We don't do that. And the other thing, you have to remember, they were probably one of the most furious teams in the National Football League at the numbers of Deshaun Watson's contract, because they knew that their guy was coming up, and they knew that if Deshaun Watson got those kind of digits, they were going to have to pay far more than they ever expected to keep their franchise quarterback. So they're bitter.
They're a little bitter about that.
In the end, they would have had to pay that much anyway, whether Deshaun Watson, all the other quarterbacks were going in that
all
direction
of them
anyway.
that signed after Deshaun were in that neighborhood. None of them eclipsed his guaranteed dollar.
I think Mahomes finally did with his new deal, didn't he?
Oh, I didn't see that.
Mahomes signed an extension last
let me
week.
look.
I missed it. If you did.
And you guys know what's so crazy about this? There's a lot of storylines. Like, you got Jadeveon Clowney coming back.
Yeah.
You got Odell Beckham Jr. coming back.
We do.
If he's going to play.
And I thought those two storylines will be bigger than what they are.
And we're going to talk about that later in the show. Like, are they looking for revenge games again? We don't know if OBJ is going to play. But Jadeveon Clowney certainly left here on bad terms.
Yeah, both of them did.
No doubt.
You know, one of the things that you have to think is going through his mind is how many times can I get to number 4?
Yeah.
So, you know, and we're going to talk about, does that worry you?
Even though they're buddies.
They are. They're friends.
Yeah.
But you know what happens Sunday at 1 o'clock.
Sure. That
Your
all
friends
goes out the
become
window.
enemies.
And in terms of the history, I think that's big for the fans. I don't think the players care about it.
No, they was born in the 90s.
They don't,
I think for us, if the Browns come out and they win this football game and they win it like the way that they've been playing, especially defensively, it's going to have people on steroids. You know how cocky people going to be going into a bye week? Yeah. So all you're going to hear for a whole week is people praising you about how good you are and the Browns are actually here. And then you going into a game against the 49ers, which is, if you set that game up, you get the 49ers or you get the Browns, and it's like, wow, that's actually a good game now.
That's actually a great game.
That's actually
and if the Browns do win, like yesterday has, and I'm sure a lot of other fans were like, well, the Browns are getting no national recognition.
Oh, they will.
Well, they're still
you beat the Ravens and the Niners.
You beat the Ravens, that changes.
Yeah, and I have seen headlines, national headlines, are the Browns a top 5 team?
Yeah,
so they're creeping
people are
into
talking about the defense especially. But if you beat the Ravens, you know, once you lose to the Steelers, and when you're always losing to the Steelers and Ravens, it doesn't feel like you're different yet. If you beat the Ravens, and now you're 3-1, and now you got a bye leading up to a huge game with a 49er team that I'm guessing will be 4-0.
I'm not sure who they have.
Can't remember who they're playing this week offhand.
I mean, I don't know that I would underdog them against anybody. Maybe Philly. Maybe it'd be a pick'em.
Kansas City.
Pick'em.
Yeah, well, it depends where the game is.
Yeah, we just don't know. We don't know what they are yet. But
by the way, I don't know if you guys saw this, but the Bears and the Broncos, who were the two worst, like put together two of the worst performances we've ever seen in football last week, are playing each other this week.
Wow. The toilet bowl.
On TV?
That's the top. Well, it'll be televised in Denver and Chicago, but nowhere else. So we've established what trash talk isn't, not this. I wanted you guys to dig through your memory banks and see if you could come up with the most egregious, jaw-dropping trash talk you have ever seen in any sport. I mean, does anything come to mind?
Well, the
for
first
you guys?
thing that comes to mind is, even though they're my team, the Bengals have done some of the all-time stupid trash talking.
Say it.
I don't like trash talking before games.
I know.
In the game, when you're battling, that's when you trash talk.
Sam Weiss is
I don't like
Sam Weiss.
I don't like. But you got A. Jamar Chase.
Yep.
B. Sam Weiss. But the worst of all was what some of the Bengals players said last year about the Chiefs.
Yeah.
Remember they said Burrowhead, and then the dopey mayor of Cincinnati.
Oh, my God, that's right.
I mean, I'm like, what are you doing that's so stupid?
Yeah.
I don't like it.
I
don't like pre-game trash talk. I think it's dumb. There's no benefit to it. None. There's nothing good that could come out of Jamar Chase talking trash about the Browns. Nothing. He's got to shut the hell up.
The reason I think Sam Weiss was so big is because, first of all, I didn't even know they had the ability to have PA out announcements on the side in game.
That was so bizarre.
I didn't know they handed him a mic like karaoke. And I'm like, what are you
I've
gonna
never
say?
seen that before.
I haven't
crazy.
seen it.
I mean, I've seen coaches gesture to the fans,
Right.
but nothing like
They
that.
hand him a mic. They plug it in. He got this old amp.
Mr. Microphone.
Yeah, and he was hot. He was like, listen, you don't do that. We don't live in
Cleveland. We live in Cincinnati.
And then they cheered. It was like he was Gladiator or something. This is crazy. And he did that in front of everybody. And it was like, it wasn't just a shot to your squad. It was shot to the whole city.
Yeah, that was
like you
bizarre.
hoodlums. like he said that like it was Cincinnati. It was a whole gated community.
But it worked because the one thing Cincinnati fans didn't want to be compared to
was Cleveland.
Was us.
That was hard.
And the last snowball had flown that day.
That was hard.
But you're right. I mean, that was unprecedented stuff.
That was crazy. It's
Get
crazy.
Sam the microphone.
It's
like, where did that thing come from?
How was that plugged in?
It would have been one thing if, like, the referee, who was always mic'd for the stadium, would have come over and said, "Here you go, Sam, take my little boy here."
No.
And he would have done it that way. That thing dropped out of the sky like it was the middle of a fight.
Michael Butler.
Hey, let's get running up. I mean, where does it come from?
That is so crazy thinking about it now.
It is nuts.
Yeah, that was the
For
coldest.
me, most of our audience probably doesn't remember this because they're too young. Ray Buchanan, who was a defensive back for the Falcons.
I remember him.
And Shannon Sharp, who was a tight end for the Broncos. Before that Super Bowl, those two were throwing jabs at one another through the media like I had never seen before, and I can't remember anything since. Ray Buchanan called him horse face.
Yeah, that was crazy.
Then Shannon Sharp, I mean, the horse face was funny. But it just got deeply personal between those two.
They was the time that the Falcons was the Dirty Birds.
The Dirty Birds, yeah.
And they had Jamal Anderson?
Yeah.
And they had nobody on. I don't understand how they got to a Super Bowl. I mean, Chandler was the quarterback.
Denver won it.
They smoked them, and it was bad.
And Sharp had the better day for sure, and so he got the last word. But man, that was crazy.
And we never heard from Buchanan after that. Because wasn't he like a safety or a corner?
Yeah, I think he was a safety.
Yeah.
I worked with Ray at ESPN.
Yeah,
and
he ended up playing for the Colts
stories
too.
off the air about Ray.
Did he end up playing for the Colts also?
I think he did play for the Colts. Went to Louisville, I want to say. Go ahead.
G, I got a question for you. You are the consummate Browns believer, a buyer into the hype of everything Browns. Jay, you've said many times before the dog pound isn't what it used to be.
Right.
G, I know you've
there's
said
no
before
debate there.
That's out of
you still think the home field advantage in Cleveland is prominent. Roquan Smith had one more comment I did want to touch on, and this one didn't get the notoriety as the I'm going to beat them in front of their wives and kids, but G, I'm curious how you felt his comments on the dog pound. Steve, you can play it.
You go in there as the enemy to go take over, and that's our plan, to actually go take over. I think they call it the dog pound. I consider myself a dog, so I'm right at home in that place. So I'm excited to get back in there, and I know they're a physical football team, but so are we.
Any problem with him saying he's going to feel right at home in the dog pound?
Well, listen, here, I got a split feeling on the dog pound. When you look at it, and these dudes, Jay can tell you, even I was born in '81, so me being 6, 7 years old, and when they in their heyday, I really couldn't soak it up and really take it in. But the dog pound back in the day was different. It's nowhere near what it is today, and it's almost disrespectful to still call it that.
I think it is disrespectful.
Well, what's
and I
really
think they
bad
should find a new name.
And I feel like J.W. Johnson, that nitwit, started this whole thing. They now refer to the whole stadium as the dog pound.
That ain't it. That's
it's
not
like
it.
you don't get it.
That's not it. Like these, and it was, and I reached out to some people or whatever, because after I did a blog and it did a lot of views, and a lot of those people from that era reached out to me and was just like, listen, when they were sitting in them sections, some of them people was going to work after that, like.
No joke.
No lie. Literally
going to work an overnight shift starting on a Sunday night.
Right,
Yeah.
Just facts. Like cats was working midnights. And he's like, back then it was just different. Them seats was for the people that was on the ground level.
Were wooden
society.
bleachers.
There
was no comfort zone.
No, it wasn't. He said guys was really having, like, that was, he said life was tough for those people that sat in those seats. Like, them people was paycheck to paycheck. Them people was scrounging and scrapping all week just to put something on the table because they knew they needed to get that money to go to the Browns game.
You're right.
And so that's where you see that angst and energy level from, because they was the people in society that was really, they the common people. They was down. So that was their only time to say, we up now. The Browns don't got the best stadium. The Browns don't have the best uniforms. Heck, but you know what? We work hard, and when you come here, we're going to make it hard for you too. And that's what resonated with me so much. I watched so many Browns games during the summer just being on YouTube, and I'm like, man, it was different. Now it's corporate. Now you kids there, they show puppies they show puppies between plays at halftime. Like, that ain't what it is about. Like, I don't think I think winning plays a part in it too. Now, it doesn't mean that you can't get back there, but I really would love to see Cleveland have a great home field advantage, because guess what? Playoff games over a Progressive, magical.
Absolutely
magical. Playoff games over at the Rocket Mortgage, them games is loud. This is one of the loudest places out in the NBA, and I just want to see the NBA or the NFL and the Browns get to
a home playoff game.
It's been a long time.
But I was old enough at the time, because I was born in '65. So when they were killing it in the mid to late 80s, I was 12, 13, 14 years old. And I sat in the dog pound 4 games. And it was different. I remember the first time I sat in the dog pound for a game, I felt like I was in a different city. Because, normally we were up in the regular seats.
Right. Mm-hmm.
There was one game where the only seat we could get was the dog pound. We went, and I just was like, this is a completely different experience. And it was organic. Imagine if in St. Louis, they still had a Big Mac Playland in left field.
Right.
Like, that happened organically because Mark McGwire was hitting home runs up there, and it became Big Mac
That's
Lane.
what makes it special
But,
when you do.
but he's not there anymore, and neither is Big Mac Playland.
No. Yeah, right.
And the dogs that were Minifield and Dixon and that defensive secondary, the ones that labeled themselves dogs, that was organic and real, but we've tried carrying it over generation after generation, and at that point, it's forced, it's tired, it's old, and it's time to move on, in my view.
You got to bring something else. You got to give something else.
Yeah, but you can't force it, as you say. It's got something else. You can't pick a nickname for the defense.
No.
It's going to happen, maybe.
The Bash Brothers are gone, too.
Whatever, right.
When in Oakland, McGuire and
now
Canseco left.
Now they're facing you in
exactly
adult
right.
games.
Facts. Yeah. So, it's just... I love the idea of it originally.
Of course.
But every time I hear it and see it, and you're right, the whole stadium now is the dog pound.
Yeah, that's what doesn't make any sense.
Like, look, if we become that rabid, crazy fan base that we were in the late 80s, and there's only one way for that to happen, that's for the team to take us as deep as that team.
That's right.
But you'll see a fan base emerge that we haven't seen here before.
Yep. I think the best home field advantage, I'm not going to games in all these stadiums.
Yeah.
To me, Seattle has the best home field advantage. I mean, it's just always so. Last week I was watching some of their game. I can't even remember who they were playing now. But there was like 2 false starts in a row by the other team.
Loud. Always.
It's so loud and crazy.
Kansas City is good.
Yep.
I thought Oakland used to be great. It was a place where opposing teams did not want to go.
Right.
Philadelphia is tough.
Philadelphia is just tough. Philadelphia hits different, man. I got to tell you, that is the angriest fan base I have ever seen.
And you have to say Pittsburgh, and I hate that.
No, but they've got a great fan
But
base.
I think Seattle's the best. I would take them over.
I would go Seattle, Kansas City, maybe a 1A.
Maybe it's
Green Bay when they're very good.
I saw this yesterday. Seattle has led the league in opposing false starts every year since 2009.
Yeah, I mean there's a reason for that.
If there's a stat that can measure the fan base, that's it. They're making it disruptive.
And some of it's probably the
offense to
dynamics of how the stadium is built.
It could
and just
be.
the way the noise stays in there.
I used to hate the old Houston Astrodome. Like when
could get cooking.
when the Browns wanted to play the Oilers, they just always seem to not play as well. I'm like, I don't like this, man.
Yeah, that was.
See, when I think of the Astrodome, I think of the second Bad News Bears movie.
I do too. Absolutely.
Bob Watson comes out. It's like, let the kids play.
Yeah, that was so good.
All right, guys, we're going to move on to our next topic. Before we do that, I want to remind you that Jace Case provides 5 life-saving antibiotics for emergency use, and all it takes is to head over to jace.com, fill out a simple online form, and get ongoing care from their physicians on any treatment or related questions. Doctors created, doctor recommended, and if you use promo code LOCKEDON at jacemedical.com, you get $20 off, and hopefully can help you save up to $360 in totality. That is Jace, J-A-S-E, medical.com. Guys, we saw a glimpse of it on Sunday, what a Nick Chubb-less Browns offense will look like. I don't. Is there a better way to say than Nick Chubb-less?
Sounds funny, Nick Chubb-less.
Chubb-less.
I have a joke. Should I say it?
Go ahead.
Nah, actually, probably not.
Don't do it.
Yeah, I won't. But we saw what an offense with Deshaun Watson and Stefanski looks like without Nick Chubb in the rotation. Do you think anything we've seen from that game or anything in the past gives you confidence that you know what it'll look like moving forward? Or do you think what we see on Sunday might be really the first time anyone has actually seen what this offense without Nick Chubb will look like?
I don't think there's any way to predict for sure. We know the running game won't be as good because you just can't replace Nick Chubb. I don't care who you put in there. Right. It's not going to be as good. They didn't run the ball very well last week. They didn't need to, really, because they threw the ball really well. But there will come a game, again, even if Deshaun Watson is back to Houston, Deshaun Watson. Yeah. If we're lucky enough and that's happened, there'll still be a game or 2 or 3 where they're going to need to run the ball well. Yeah. We don't know if they're capable of that right now. I think that's fair. We could hope. We could, guess. But we haven't seen it. So I don't know yet. And I think they'll be tested these next couple of weeks again. Baltimore's defense, I don't know where their ranks are through 3 games. Their defense is, good but not great, I think. San Francisco's got a great defense. So,
we'll find out.
Yeah.
G?
Yeah, I don't think it's – to me, it's not so much of the gaudy yards and the yardage. I think it's about the attempts and trying to establish it. I think it's important that during the game, if you saw the flow that the Browns, had last week, it wasn't just let's go 5 wide and go up top.
They ran it a lot.
They ran the ball a lot. And I think if you establish that, I think it'll make it easier for Deshaun Watson to ease into the game plan that they want to do. Like we said, I think they are using Elijah Moore in the short throws to him as an extension of the run game. I think you'll still see a lot more of that going forward. But I do think you have to run Jerome Ford. And by the way, Jerome Ford has not played bad. Two touchdowns last week. He didn't have the production yardage, but 2 touchdowns, caught the ball out of the backfield. He had almost 100 yards against the Steelers. I think, if you can get, I don't know if Kareem Hunt is going to be up to speed like you want. I knew he'd probably be a little banged up.
We expected that.
Yeah, he's on the injury report already.
You're right. Yeah. You just don't show up and go play in the NFL game.
No.
That don't happen. But no, I think it's the attempts and keeping it, manageable. It's easy for everybody to say that, but trust me, I still don't believe that any quarterback can get back there and throw it 50 times consistently. It's just too much bad stuff that can go down.
Yeah. I think I want to piggyback on your point. We don't know. We've seen 4 quarters of Deshaun Watson in a Browns uniform without Nick Chubb on the field. We know
technically 6 because he got hurt in the.
You're right.
Yeah.
You're right.
Yeah.
We know that with Nick Chubb on the field, Deshaun wasn't lighting it up. Mm-hmm. I'm being kind. He was 30th, 31st in some of the quarterback metrics league-wide. He was bad. Now we've got a short sample size, very small, with Nick Chubb not on the field, and Deshaun Watson has looked completely different. Completely different. Lights out. I couldn't explain that any easier than I could explain how Baker Mayfield's production went through the roof when Odell Beckham Jr. wasn't on the field. That doesn't make sense. Sometimes you can have, in sports, addition by subtraction. I think it's rare, and nobody ever would have voluntarily said, let's take our best football player on offense off of the field and just see what happens. But something crazy happened, and perhaps it's this. Deshaun Watson's a rhythm quarterback. He wants to get the ball and go. And the Browns have even said, Jason alluded to this earlier this week, you might start to see them run a hurry-up package just because Deshaun feels more comfortable in that offense, in that rhythm. I'll equate it to a pitcher. Last night I watched Shane Bieber, and during the telecast, Rick Manning made a comment about how the pitch clock has so helped Shane Bieber. Now, he's 6-6, and he had a terrible season because he was injured. But last night, he looked like Shane Bieber. He had a one-hitter through like 5 or 6 innings. What he was doing was getting the ball and going. Go, go, go. And Manning even said guys used to disrupt Bieber by stepping out of the box and calling for time because they could, and they knew it bothered him. They can't do that now.
Right.
And he's just getting the ball, go, go, go. And I think Deshaun Watson is going to work better in that kind of a system. And also, not having the cloud over his head that we've got to get Chubb involved because he's Nick Chubb. That is no longer there.
Yeah.
And was it an anomaly? Is it a sign of things to come? I think we'll find out in the coming weeks.
Yeah.
But to your point about there's going to be a time, I said this on Monday.
Yeah.
There is going to be times this year where we look down that bench and say, gosh, we need number 24 right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
Oh,
and
yeah.
maybe, listen, who knows? Maybe Watson would have had a breakout this week even with Chubb.
We don't know.
We'll never know that
you're
for
right.
sure.
We'll never
is
know.
it coincidence or is there something to it? In the Odell case, the Odell case is different than Nick Chubb in terms of Odell was being a pain in the butt.
He was.
Nick Chubb's certainly not a pain in the
Never.
butt. So
Yeah.
that's
But
a factor there.
The one thing that I was thinking about, though, is if you're an opposing defense and you're coming into week 4 against the Browns, as you're game planning, 24 is not on your mind. So you would think that defenses now no longer have to put 7 or 8 guys in the box.
Right.
So now that gives them the ability to drop more guys in coverage, thus making things more difficult for Watson to find open receivers.
Right.
But he threw the ball with pinpoint accuracy,
Right.
even when guys were covered.
Yeah,
He
you would,
upped his
right.
game.
You would think the defense would be more focused on the passing game,
Right.
And
It
that
would be
didn't
harder to
happen.
pass.
Now the Titans happen to be a team that's really good against the run and really bad against the pass.
Yes.
So we'll see if that changes as the weeks go by. But you would think that. But you'd think as an offense now or as a defense, your first priority was Nick Chubb. Now it's Watson to Cooper. That's
Right.
what you're most worried about when it comes to the Browns.
And they're doing a good job of just moving and chains. Like, a lot of what football is, and I know it's kind of simplified, but it's third downs. It's 3rd and 4. They can run anything. Anything's cut. You can run. You can run a screen, run a draw. You can run your. You can go. You can put 2 tight ends in the game. You can go in.
The playbook's wide open.
It's wide open.
Yeah.
So the Browns consistently, and which was encouraging, is they're starting to mirror the offensive game with the defensive game. One thing that gets you playing more free is the fact that, all right, on offense, I don't necessarily have to go to a specific person. They don't know where I'm going. I can spread around anywhere I want.
Right.
And on top of that, defensively, I know I got a stellar defense. So now I know I don't have to take certain chances. I don't have to take certain risky chances over the middle of the field. I can say, all right, well, I'm going to count on my dude to make a catch and probably run for 2 or 3 more yards, and you play into the strengths of your team. Think about that. That is for Deshaun Watson being like, you know what? We just gonna play. We just gonna play ball control here a little bit. We're gonna try to move these chains and understanding that Myles Garrett and the rest of them dudes is causing problems on the other end of the field. That's big.
Now, let me throw something out there. I don't know. I'm just throwing this out there. You never know. Maybe there was something with the combination of Watson and Chubb that when Nick Chubb was on the field, there was some sort of tell that the defense was picking up on where they occasionally or always, I don't know, had a better idea of whether the Browns were running or throwing. You never know. You see that in baseball. A guy has a tell when he throws a curveball or whatever it might be. I'm just throwing stuff out there. I have no idea. But maybe that was a possibility. Maybe there was something to Deshaun Watson's body language when he was handing off. I mean, you never know. There's probably guys that study everything and pick up on something. Who knows? And maybe Nick Chubb is just so damn good that even when they knew they were running, he was able to overcome it to some degree. Who knows?
Yeah.
That's probably out there a little bit, but you never know.
Again, the Titans' defensive backfield is, if not the worst one in the NFL now after week 3.
You want to hear something crazy
They're
about the
one of
Titans' defensive backs?
Yeah.
Sean Murphy Bunting, who got called for 2 penalties in my mind. He gave the deep pass to DPJ, which was a perfect pass. He had an 89 PFF grade, which,
stupid.
once again, I know we always kind of look at PFF grades in a what are they looking at versus what's the eye test showing. They graded high, but
he was responsible for 3 horrible plays for the Titans.
I agree.
Maybe more, but at least 3.
I didn't get that one.
And he grades out at an 89.
I do have a theory on Watson I want to kind of throw out to you guys. And I mentioned this on Behind the Glass last night. If you haven't checked it out, go check it out. But in Houston, Deshaun never had a running game.
Right.
Like, never had a consistent running game. He led the team in rushing one of the 4 years and was one of their top 2 rushers in each of his 4 seasons there. He had weapons. DeAndre Hopkins was there, left. Then he had Cooks and Will Fuller. But there's something about an elite Uber competitor when they know, put the team on my back.
Absolutely.
It's on me.
Absolutely.
And I do think Deshaun at Clemson had a little bit of that. It was molded and developed even more in Houston when he was the focal point. He was the guy in the offense. And this is not a knock on Nick Chubb whatsoever. But when he came here, it was him and Chubb. They always had that secondary option. And now without Nick Chubb,
there's something to that, Mike.
It could be that Deshaun is, in a good way, feeling a little more pressure to know, I got to make things happen for this offense because we don't have the best running back in football standing by my side.
And that's what the elite players are able to do. They're able to assess the situation, look around, and say, it's on me now.
Yeah.
I've got to stand up and I've got to make something happen. And by the way, there was criticism of Watson playing poorly last year, but it was whispers. After the Week 2 loss to Pittsburgh, those whispers turned into screams.
That's right.
We heard them on the national media. We had plenty of them here in Cleveland.
Deservedly so.
I was extremely hard on him. You were extremely hard on him. We know that he's got rabbit ears. We know that he's listening to all of this nonsense. And maybe that was the tipping point. And he finally said, you know what? I'm sick of this. I'm sick. Maybe he put in extra film work. I don't know.
Maybe there's just some sort of freedom mentally of not having to worry about getting the ball to Nick Chubb.
Right.
Because you're not worried about how many touches Jerome Ford is getting.
No,
nobody's worried about that.
Yeah.
You have to kind of, I take things all and I kind of dismantle them. You got, first of all, people forget, he talked about not even wanting to be in a cold weather city, remember?
Right.
So they talked about, so he wanted to play. All the other teams was Atlanta and New Orleans and Miami. Dome teams are hot teams. He went to the exact opposite of that, right? So
after saying no to them.
After saying no the first time.
That's when Haslam stepped up and wrote the check.
So he like, okay, I got to get used to that. You're in a new city. And then it's not like he came in and had this situation where there was nobody at quarterback. He came in and it was a huge personality at quarterback that was still here. And people still was like, no, we could roll with the other guy. So he was not beloved. He was not, it wasn't like he had too many people embracing him. And then you throw all the other national stuff on it. It was almost like, all right, well, the stuff got so loud. I think that last week he just said, listen, man, I ain't trying to fit in no more. I'm gonna not fit in. I'm gonna just do me. Like when you try to fit in so much and you try to take a backseat to Nick Chubb and you just want to fit in, you just want people to like you, sometimes you compromise what makes you a competitor. And sometimes you got to be like, look, man, I just got to go out here and throw this football like I know how.
But all this stuff we're saying only holds if he continues to play well.
You're right. Was it an anomaly or was it a pattern? I want to ask Mikey to do something while we're talking here. I was extremely critical of Deshaun's social media presence and usage, particularly when there were media outlets, national media outlets, that thought they had connected dots between Deshaun and a burner account, a fake account. Now, they didn't present any evidence to me whatsoever, other than the fact that the handle was Gainesville's own or whatever. He's from Gainesville, Georgia. And the account was created, or at least the first tweet from this account came shortly after the game against Pittsburgh. Mm-hmm. That's not enough evidence for me. Yeah. I didn't see any smoking gun whatsoever. I saw a lot of speculation and supposition. But I, for one, said Deshaun needs to put his thumbs away. No more social media use. McNuggets, what has his traction been like? His posts on Instagram and Twitter, because those are the two that he uses more than any, right?
Of Deshaun or of the alleged burner?
Deshaun Watson.
I mean, since September 10th, he has retweeted a bunch of happy birthday tweets from fans, from Browns-related accounts.
I mean, original posts.
I don't believe any.
Interesting.
Hold on, let me confirm. At least on Twitter, I'll check Instagram in a second.
I think he's more active on Instagram.
Yeah, he is. I'm looking through his Twitter. He has not posted anything himself in 2.5 weeks, 3 weeks.
That's interesting.
Trying to find the last one. Hold on. The last one he posted was after their first win on September 10th. That was the last time he posted anything that wasn't just a retweet.
Now, I don't know that he's made a conscious decision, or is this just coincidence? I know normally he doesn't go those stretches without some sort of social media post. Maybe the Browns got to him and said, look, too many distractions. Do yourself a favor. We're strongly recommending you put that stuff away. You're a free man. You do whatever you want. But we don't think it's doing anything to make you a better football. I don't know that this happened. I'm just spitballing. I'm just guessing. But I think if that were the case, that would be a good thing for him. Don't look at it either.
I got your Instagram stuff real quick if you want.
Go ahead.
So he posted after the win. He posted a win post with his teammates. It was his birthday a few days later. He posted a couple birthday posts.
After week 1, right?
Yeah, his birthday was the 14th.
Right.
He posted a video of him working out with his personal trainer.
Yep.
He posted a video from his new, I don't know if it's a podcast or what it is, but it's on Lockerverse, him and Quincy Avery, but a clip from that. And then he posted a picture 3 days ago with pictures from the Titans game saying on to the next.
Okay.
See, for me, I don't, listen, I don't care nothing about it. You know why I don't care nothing about it? Live your life. Like, you got one life to live. To me, when you look at social media or whatever the case it is, that can go for any one of us. People got a lot of followers. You can either tweet a bunch, or you can be like, all right, I'm gonna be done tweeting and chill out. Everybody has to have that filter where they're like, okay, let me lock in. LeBron do the same thing. LeBron will tweet and retweet. He retweet wine, and then he gets to the playoffs. He say, I'm going 0 dark 30. For me, I think one of the things is, if that's an expression that you want to make and that's an expression that you want to have as a person, you're entitled to it. The only thing I'm looking at you as saying is I want that, them numbers. And so
that's all that matters.
That's all. If you hit that, you hit them numbers. It don't matter if you want to have Twitter, Facebook, and an Instagram party and have people come through. All we want is them numbers. And so my thing is, I know Deshaun Watson is going to put the work in behind the scenes because the way he talks about the game. That's why I think, to my point, what I was saying earlier is, he just said, screw it. I'm going to just be myself. Like, if you be yourself, and Coach Prime says this a lot, if I'm going to be myself and that make you uncomfortable, then that's on you. I can only do what I can do. And I'm seeing him play freer, clear. He ain't trying to do it like I saw Clemson Deshaun Watson right there. Because the celebration, the exuberance, the excitement. And sometimes when you lose something like a Nick Chubb or you lose it, you say, okay, well, I got to be the energy for the team. I got to have that energy because they could have came out there and got smoked. That Tennessee Titans game was a trap game. You got beat at Pittsburgh. You had all them face mask penalties. People was writing you off. Your best players going for the year. That was a game where the Cleveland Browns was set up to get smoked, and they came out and flipped the script. That showed me he had a little look. He's getting back to being the old guy that says it don't matter what's happening, just put it on me.
I think when it comes to social media, we all want to impose maybe our beliefs on what people should do.
Yeah, and that's not fair.
And that's not fair. You and I are older. We're in our 50s.
Yeah.
He's 25, 26.
Right.
He may be rich. He may be famous. He may have people saying horrible things to him. But, but if it gives him we say, well, what's the benefit of social media? Maybe it gives him pleasure to put out the videos for his fans, the people that like him, and maybe he doesn't read the comments or doesn't read, maybe he has somebody that filters them for him. I think when the player's playing well and the team's winning, none of it, we don't care about any of that stuff.
No.
They could be.
But when you're losing, it's a problem.
Right. Then we bring up all these things, right? It was like with Baker. Baker was very arrogant. He was doing all this cocky stuff. When he's winning, you love it. Look at that cocky Baker. When he's losing, it's like, why the hell is he doing that crap?
Right.
And we do that with all players, and it's really unfair, but, that's part of the beast. The reason players make so much money and the reason there's so much is because it's so popular, and so we talk about it a lot, and that's the downside for it.
You said something right there. I don't want to be like I'm 42. I may look young and act young. I like jewelry and dumps. I like rap music, and I'll play video games. But one thing you said, you got to take in consideration. These guys is in their 20s. These dudes is 28, 27. Yeah. Look how many years we had to have experiences to know what we should be doing or not doing. Or let me fall. I still be doing stuff as I shouldn't even did that.
I can't even imagine, G. Like, I'm thinking back to when I was like 25. If I had been famous and rich, and when I was with my mental capacity when I was 25. I probably would have gotten in so much trouble.
I'd have been dead and in jail. I'm going to keep it real.
I think most of us would have, Bo.
Yeah, I mean, so.
I thank my lucky stars all the time. There wasn't social media when I was 20.
Oh, right. I did some crazy stuff in my 20s.
Yep, so did
Can you imagine Jay in the bar when he was 26?
It wasn't a pretty sight.
Hey, man, he was in there selling dreams.
And a lot of these guys grew up in the social media age. That's all they've known their entire lives.
That's right.
I mean, you don't know much younger than me.
And let's face it, social media is addictive.
Yeah,
it's addictive.
Oh, there's no question it is.
It is no doubt.
There's absolutely no question it is addictive.
Yeah.
We're going to move on real quick. Before we do that, I want to remind you guys that after Monday's regularly programmed show, we are headed to Rocket Mortgage Fieldhouse for an extra 2 hours of UCS content, a live show from Cavs Media Day. Brad Sellers making his triumphant return from Cavs Media Day. Jason will also join us, and a plethora of Cavalier players will be stopping by the UCSS set. We got our own set they set us up with. Shout out to the Cavs for hooking us up. 2 to 4 on the UCSS YouTube channel. That is next Monday after our regular Ravens reaction
By the way,
show.
Mike's face in that picture. Can we bring that back for a second, Steve? Is that possible?
We can.
Mike's face in that picture looks like Brad just farted, and Mike was like, oh, and then had to quickly put on a smile.
He's been eating cabbage.
Oh, gee.
So, guys, I wanted to ask you guys this. The status for Odell Beckham Jr., he's still questionable, has not practiced this week. He's more likely than not going to play. Jadeveon Clowney will be playing. He had some choice words as he left Cleveland last year. That relationship did not end on the highest of notes. He is a guy, though, who has stepped up and played his best games when he's motivated. I feel like he'll be motivated on Sunday. Are you guys worried about any revenge game factor from Mr. Jadeveon Clowney come Sunday?
No. I think Jadeveon Clowney, speaking of trash talk, should be worried about Myles Garrett. He's lucky he doesn't play offense. Remember, Jadeveon Clowney had some not nice things to say kind of about Myles Garrett when he went out the door.
Some very not nice things.
Yeah, it wasn't just about Joe Woods. And, of course, Jadeveon Clowney tried to make it seem like it had nothing to do with Myles Garrett, but it did. And we know this about Myles Garrett. He's like an elephant. He doesn't forget.
He does not forget.
He is going to remember that, and I think he's going to take it out on Jadeveon's teammates in this one.
I think this is facts. I think when you look at Myles Garrett, he believes that Zadarius Smith is a better player. And I know he would agree that Zadarius Smith is, more importantly, a better teammate. According to people around Myles Garrett, Jadeveon Clowney wasn't a guy that was all really bought into the D-line. They would have functions. He may not show up. He wasn't coming to those things. Even when they were courting him, they were texting each other. Jadeveon Clowney wasn't really receptive or texting back. He was just basically a loner.
When you played in college, I'm sure you as a D-line group did some hanging out together,
Oh,
right?
no. That's the offensive line and the defensive line.
And if one guy was like half the time not showing up, what would you think about that?
No, it wasn't they didn't have no choice. You just pulled up on them like, hey, listen, come on over here. Like, or I don't got a ride today. And we used to even have it where if the young dudes was on campus, and because we stayed off campus, if the young dudes was on in the dorms, we go pick them up.
Right.
If you ain't had no money, we all pitched in. So it wasn't not showing up. Everybody had to show up. And so when you look at the Browns defensive front, the thing that I love the most is that Zadarius Smith had 10 sacks last year. He was the man on his defensive line.
Right.
He doesn't have any sacks this year. But when you watch the tape, he's been close 10, 12 times. And you can tell when somebody be close and be like, oh, man, I'm mad because I ain't getting it. He's always shouting out his other people. He's always clapping it up, always putting it. See, that makes the whole defensive line want to go after people. and Clowney was standoffish, and some people will call him a mercenary or some sort, but Clowney has never he's never really found a home like that. He had J.J. Watt.
You're right about that.
J.J. Watt, it was like, okay, he went to Tennessee, right? And they played on a great defensive line. We talked about the 6-man or the 12th man of Seattle. Played with some other great guys, great traditional defense. Didn't really stick there. And I thought he came here, and you got Myles Garrett. I thought it was going to be a hit situation where they played off each other.
Yeah.
But sometimes you don't know if somebody's happy for you.
That's right. And to be fair, his first year here, Clowney played pretty well.
Great.
He played very well.
Great.
9.5 sacks or something.
Yeah.
Great.
But last year he
used
was
a
down.
word, mercenary, that I think perfectly defines him throughout his career. He's been that guy who, to me, is playing for numbers. He's trying to roll a huge sack number so he can get paid.
Yeah.
And there are other guys, and I think Zadarius Smith's a perfect example of that. There are other guys that fit well into the team framework and understand that you don't have to get to the quarterback to be appreciated and to get paid. Obviously, that's the home run when you get to him. But you can hit a triple by forcing a quick throw that leads to an interception. That doesn't show up necessarily in the biggest stat category because it's a pressure or it's a hurry. But I feel like in Clowney's case, he was always going for the home run, sometimes to the detriment of his team, and it always to me felt like he was chasing the paycheck.
And to me, I don't think you can have an all-time great defense if you do have mercenaries. It's too hard to play defense in the NFL, especially with the rules dictated towards the offense. If you want an all-time great defense, you got to actually like the people you hang with. You got to actually like even in the back end. You notice Greg Newsome is all the way bought in. Remember, we talked about it all summer.
I'm not playing the slot corner.
I ain't playing that. I ain't doing that. You see how that kind of permeates. Now, how many times did he hear Jadeveon Clowney say that?
Sure.
I ain't playing on third down. I'm going to just play over
where's
here.
he?
I think you can, bring in a mercenary, but you can't bring in a mercenary to a group that's not good already.
Yes.
Like, remember when the Rams traded for Von Miller?
Yes.
Right? Like, well, Von Miller's a much better player, but like that defense was established. They were good.
And he bought into the team concept.
Right.
And he was
I'm not sure that Jadeveon, and he proved this at the end of the year, he wasn't worried about team numbers, wins.
No.
He was worried about his personal sack number, and he felt he couldn't get any because the defensive coordinator was playing to the other guy.
So, yeah. So he was refusing to go in. Newsome was complaining about the slot. That's the signs of a lot of problems there.
And to back up Bull's point, Zadarius Smith actually called himself a mercenary this offseason. He wanted out of Minnesota because they weren't going to be able to pay him what he wanted, and he said he wanted a chance to excel on a great defense. We get one more contract. He said, I'm a mercenary in this business. Comes to Cleveland, and to G's point, or I guess more to Bull's point, you can have a mercenary if everyone else is bought in. They'll eventually buy into the rest of the culture.
As long as he
you
buys
can't have
into
a bunch of mercenaries because then they're all out for
then
themselves.
they're all on separate programs, and you got 11 individuals and not one group. This defense is a group.
It definitely feels
Jim
that
Shore
way.
said it earlier. And Jim Shore said, if you go out and play, what's valuable to us, we'll see. It ain't like you just got to go out. All you need is for the people in-house to see what you can do and what they have you do, and you can still get a contract and not have crazy numbers. It's happened a lot. So there's a lot of people who believe you got to get big numbers, go somewhere else. And I always say, man, listen, you might want to go to the prom with the girl that want to go with you. Don't be looking around for the girl down the street. Like that could end up bad. I'm just stick with what you got you here. And if Zadarius Smith, he on a 1-year contract, and Mari Cooper, they keep talking about how he ain't gonna get paid, and I keep telling them, y'all better watch out.
There's not a single player on defense for the Browns right now that I can think of that I would say is playing below my expectations for them.
Nope, not one.
I can't think of a guy.
There's only one for me, and he hasn't even played yet. But Siaka Ika has been a healthy scratch 3 weeks in a row, or 2 weeks in a row.
But I honestly had no expectations for him.
Well, he was on our 32 and 32 list, and they played 2 predominantly run-heavy teams. They drafted him to stop the run. He hasn't suited up as a healthy scratch.
We know your list was bad, and you embarrassed yourself by putting him on.
You just kind of exposed your list.
Well, but I'm saying I had expectations, and we didn't know really what to expect.
I think Anthony had him 8th on the list.
But outside of him, and that's not even really fair to him because he hasn't played. He just has been a healthy scratch.
Well,
personally had no expectations.
So what happened was, this is the funny thing.
Yeah.
What happened was they found out how good Myles Garrett was at stand-up 3 technique. They found out that Jadeveon Smith is a 3. They say, listen, why would we even put these dudes in here? We don't need to rotate them. We got Myles Garrett. Like, we gonna redshirt you. That's where's Shelby? Have we seen him a lot?
No, we haven't. You're right.
Maybe he's
Shelby's played more than you think.
Has he? How many snaps?
I'll tell you the snap count in 1 sec, but I also have a phenomenal quote for you guys. Can I read it real quick?
Yes.
On Myles Garrett, and then we have a Dede coming up. I was checking some reaction from the Tennessee side to the game last Sunday, and this is a quote from a Nashville newspaper. The Titans' offense was that of an FCS team playing at Georgia on Sunday. It badly needs left guard Peter Skoronski back. The Titans might need to do something about left tackle Andre Dillard as well. Although he immediately improved as a player on Sunday evening simply by boarding a plane and getting thousands of miles away from Myles Garrett. That is a direct quote from a
improved player.
Well, good luck because now he's got to go against Trey Hendrickson this week.
Not going to get much
obviously
easier.
Not as good as Myles Garrett,
but
he's still up there.
No picnic.
Yeah.
Dude, no rest for the weary.
Can you check on something for me, Mike? I tried to find the Gainesville Zone, the alleged burner account of Deshaun Watson, and it's a different account now. And I'm wondering, did whoever start that account delete it? And it looks to me like someone, now that name is available, took that name again. Because the Gainesville's own account is not the account that was tweeting at all of the. It's got 11 followers.
Make Gainesville's own great again.
Yeah, that's funny.
I will look into that.
By the way,
I mean, it's almost like that burner account disappeared.
I will
See
look
if you
into
can
it.
Find it.
I will. And
alleged
we have a
burner account.
We have a perfect guest coming in, where I can dip out for 1 second.
Okay,
and get into it. But before we bring Aditi in, guys, we have a post-game show every 2-minute warning. 17 weeks of the season. G. Bush, Earl, myself, reaction, celebration, therapy, whatever you need, we got it for you. It starts with the 2-minute warning. That continues this week after the Browns-Ravens game. And joining us now, the one, the only, Aditi Kinkhabwala. What's up, Aditi?
Aditi, I got to start with a very hard question. We have no time for pleasantries right now. We love you. It's good to have you here. But I have a very serious question, very serious. And you're going to think I'm joking, but I'm not. It's a tough one. Today, you have to make a decision. Who would you rather have as your quarterback going forward? Lamar Jackson or Deshaun Watson? You got to make that decision today.
Why? Am I starting a team?
You broke up for a second. Did you say
said,
why?
Why do I have
starting
to?
A team?
You're starting a team. Yes, those are your two choices. Lamar, forget the off the field stuff. Just on the field. Just on the field. Who are you taking? Ooh. It's a tough one.
Oh, boy.
Nobody's going to be mad at you if you say Lamar.
I could argue both. I could argue both.
You got to break the tie.
I could argue both, and I think it's what? Say it again.
Break the tie. I'm putting you in a tough spot here. No fence riders.
She's so mad at you right now, Bull.
I know. Well, you know what the problem? It's like you're thinking live on television, and I feel as if I should talk aloud so everybody knows what's going on in the brain right now.
Talk it out.
I think that. Okay, so Lamar is a completely dynamic unicorn. He is one of one. He can do things that nobody else can do, and that presents a challenge in and of itself. But in order for him to do the things that nobody else can do, plus do the things that other people at the position can do, you need a certain line in front of him. You need certain playmakers around him. And most importantly, you need a certain staff around him. And this is the key. It's funny because we've been talking about this all week long, and I'm hoping we all get to talk about it. You need a staff. Deshaun, I feel like you just don't need as many complementary pieces to get that magic. So maybe the payoff of Lamar is greater if all these other things come in play. And maybe Deshaun is just a little bit safer because you don't necessarily need all these other things to get to that greatness.
So you're going with
But
Deshaun.
I don't know.
You going with Deshaun? 51,
I mean, it's so hard to do that.
I think it's more like 50.1.
We're talking about like, yeah, exactly, 50.1, 49.9.
It's a tough call.
It's a great question,
What's breaking
Bull.
the tie?
It
What's
is.
the vote right now?
We need a recount.
Well, yeah, what's the vote right now?
We haven't even talked about it. I was just thinking about it. I think maybe we'll talk about it on
It's
tomorrow's
actually
show.
the lead topic of tomorrow's show. I read.
There you go. But because I think it's fascinating. I bet you. I think if you ask people nationally, I think Lamar Jackson would win that vote. Not by a lot, but I think he'd win. I think before last week he would have won by more. And if Deshaun Watson starts, it's a big if because he hasn't proven it yet. But if he continuously plays well now going forward, it will swing to the point where eventually Watson will pass him again. For me, I
think that's fair. I think that's why it's so hard to make these pronouncements.
Yeah.
And this is what you keep saying. It's such a small sample size right now. We're so early in the season, and there's so many questions. Can Lamar stay healthy or stay healthy? Will Todd Monken indeed be the right fit offensively for him? Deshaun finally shaken off the rust of 2 years. Is Deshaun settling into what he really wants to run? And again, I mean, so my crew this week is on the Steelers-Texans. I'm not with them because of the way that CBS has set up the season. But we've spent all week talking, and we've talked a lot about the Steelers and their coaching staff. And I have so many thoughts on the Steelers' offensive coaching staff. And literally just earlier today, I made this point that the Steelers are playing the Texans. The Texans have a young quarterback. Who do they get to lead and mold and help grow and develop that young quarterback? Bobby Slowick. Bobby Slowick was on that Mike Shanahan staff back in Washington, the staff that produced Kyle Shanahan, Matt LaFleur, Sean McVay, Mike McDaniel, Bobby Slowick. We're all on that staff. They all learned offense. They learned how to teach offense. They learned how to grow and develop quarterbacks under Mike Shanahan. Kyle Shanahan, look at what he's done with Brock Purdy. Mike McDaniel, look at what he's done with Tua Tagovailoa. I can keep going, okay? Matt LaFleur, what he's doing right now with Jordan Love. Sean McVay took Jared Goff to a Super Bowl and then obviously won one with Matt Stafford. He had more to work with, but still, all of that, okay? Then, meanwhile, who do the Steelers have growing and developing their young quarterback?
Yeah.
A guy named Matt Canada, who before he was hired spent 2 years on the couch. And before those 2 years on the couch, spent the previous 8 years in 6 different jobs. 5 of them that lasted exactly for 1 year. All in college. Yeah. So Matt Canada, in an 8-year span, was in college, had 6 jobs in those 8 years. 5 of those 6 jobs were 1 year. They were all lateral moves, offensive coordinator and quarterback. That's what he coached in college. Then he sat on his couch for 2 years. Then Mike Tomlin brought him in, and that's what they're entrusting Kenny Pickett's future to.
And Aditi,
is Matt Canada.
What's mind-blowing to me is that we had this conversation both on the show and then later that day in a text chain between you and I. I had said it seems like the Pittsburgh fan base, which that doesn't precipitate making moves, but a lot of folks in the media, people in general, are looking at this saying he's not working as the offensive coordinator. That he was in the barn after last season. And I asked you then, why in the world did the Pittsburgh Steelers, an organization known for pulling the right levers, why did they bring him back? And your answer to me was that the Rooneys don't like paying coaches that aren't working for them. In the grand scheme of things, to write a check for whatever his salary would be so they could move on from what looks to be a mistake and try to get the right person in here in the offseason and put in a new offense that can be complementary to what they have on the defensive side of the ball, when Jimmy Haslam was at once upon a time paying coaches that were no longer on his staff, head coaches, $49 million combined. It just is a mind-blowing statement to me that the Rooneys wouldn't just fix what was broken in the offseason and try to make it better this year.
But you know what, Jay, this is a greater statement. We heard Kevin Stefanski say so much this offseason how happy he was with his staff how much of the staff was intact, and the addition of Jim Shorts, right? Let's just call it what it is. No offense to Joe Woods, no offense to Mike Prefer, but Bubba Ventrone and Jim Shorts, they felt they were making upgrades at positions where they were certainly happy with who they had, but they were making upgrades. And you see the impact that Jim Shorts has had. But you see who Kevin Stefanski is bringing around his players. Part of hiring Bubba Ventrone as the special teams coordinator was getting someone who was younger and energetic and more able to explain to young guys that had never played special teams before why vital and important that was, how he was able to reach them. Jim Shorts, how he was able to motivate these guys. You look at even Deshaun Watson. We're looking at Zach Taylor right there. Zach Taylor's had the same staff year after year after year. That continuity counts for something, but it's also who are you putting on that staff? How important are those people? You know, Kevin Stefanski chooses Alex Van Pelt, who was Aaron Rodgers' quarterback coach forever, a guy that played in the league forever. There's credibility to that. Those are all great staffs, okay? So it's not just about continuity, but it's like, not creating change just for the sake of change, but making change when you think you can improve. Mike Tomlin has coached for 17 years. Mike Tomlin has coached for 17 years.
I get
in
it.
17 years, he's had exactly one assistant coach go on to be a head coach. The guy he fired, Bruce Arians. He has never.
His tree isn't bearing
talk
fruit.
about coaching trees, okay? We talk about Andy Reid's coaching tree. We talk about what was Ray Rhodes' staff in Philadelphia all those years ago.
Look
we
at
talked
Tony
about that with
Dungy's,
Sean.
which produced Tomlin.
Yeah. We talk
Even
about
Sean
trees.
McVay's.
Mike Tomlin has never, ever, ever, ever had an assistant, a position coach, go on to be a coordinator. Wow. He has never had a coordinator go on to be a head coach.
That is mind-boggling.
I would argue that one of his forget it, after Bruce Arians, the most successful offensive coordinator he's had is Todd Haley, who the Rooneys forced him to hire.
Wow.
I mean, so you think about it's about the development. It's the growth and development of your players. And that is a key piece of all of this, of all of these teams that we're looking at all of these players. And so, like, when you sit here and you ask me about Lamar Jackson, I'm bringing it all back. John Harbaugh has made a change, right? John Harbaugh in 2012, Cam Cameron is someone he had a great relationship with. Cam Cameron was his offensive coordinator. He thought that Joe Flacco would respond better to Jim Caldwell, the quarterback's coach. He makes a change in the middle of the season. He fires his friend, Cam Cameron. He elevates Jim Caldwell. The Ravens go on and win a Super Bowl. Fast forward some time, and he's got co-offensive coordinators. Then all of a sudden, Joe Flacco's back falls out on him, whatever, breaks down on him. Lamar Jackson comes in. Greg Roman takes up more of the play calling offensive design. And the next year, Greg Roman becomes the single offensive coordinator because he's the best match for Lamar Jackson. John Harbaugh likes Greg Roman. Greg Roman is a very, very likable person. But that offense hit its ceiling. So John Harbaugh said, okay, as much as I may personally like someone, I need to move on. And he makes a very calculated decision not to just get someone from the Kyle Shanahan, Mike Shanahan, Sean McVay, that whole tree. He says, you know what, I've got a quarterback that's not necessarily a system guy, so I need a guy who can run a variety of different things, and that's how he goes and he finds Todd Monken. Let's bring it to the Browns. Kevin Stefanski, as a play caller, loves to say, my favorite play is the quarterback's favorite play. I want to run the plays the quarterback wants to run. That's all good coaching to me. That's all, okay, let's take advantage of what our guys do. Let's surround them with people that are going to get the best out of them, and let's speak to their souls, essentially. It's hard right now because we don't know how the Todd Monken, Lamar Jackson thing is going to work out. We clearly are starting to see how the Deshaun Watson, Kevin Stefanski thing is working. You have to give it time. I'm talking about a variety of different things. Can someone interrupt me at this point? I just feel like I went on 18-10.
You're filibustering right now.
Yeah, that was a great. You could be a senator. The senator.
No, Aditi gives her time back.
I yield my time to the great gentleman from Ohio. Now, Aditi, I'm gonna ask you about. You talked about the quarterback Deshaun Watson, and it's the first time I've seen. It was big for me after he throws that touchdown pass to Amari Cooper. You see Kevin Stefanski, and he runs up, and I almost called him Lamar. Deshaun Watson could have celebrated with anybody, could have celebrated with all the guys on the sideline, but he chose to go up and chest bump Kevin Stefanski. To me, that was big because I looked at Kevin Stefanski's face, and it looked like the first time he was emotionally invested in a quarterback. And he was genuinely excited, like, I found my match. What are your thoughts about that?
I just think that's because he's got a great poker face, and I just think that he's very good at not publicly showing emotion, but I feel extremely confident saying that he feels very strongly about Deshaun, that he loves working with Deshaun. He called Deshaun a gym rat to us. He said that the conversations that they have, the back and forth that they have, all of that, that Kevin Stefanski does indeed have a tremendous relationship with his quarterback. And I think the excitement is finally seeing the payoff that they've been working so hard towards. And it's having patience in each other to some degree. And we've had to have that.
Aditi, yesterday there was a rumor about Devontae Adams maybe being traded. The Browns were mentioned as a team. On this show, we've talked about the possibility of the Browns trading for Jonathan Taylor. We know that the Browns are going to be looking at cap hell at some point in the next 2, 3, 4 years, however many years they decide to continue to kick the can down the road, right? Do you see any scenario where the Browns, who have been aggressive, go out and get a front-line player because they think, hey, we got to go all in this year? No? You're shaking your head?
I don't see either. First of all, I think they love their wide receiver room, okay? They love Amari Cooper. They love Elijah Moore. They love the young Cedric Tillman. They love DPJ. They love David Njoku as a pass catcher. They feel, they're great there. Why go and bring on an extra big contract and another mouth that you potentially have to feed?
Aditi, all those guys are just guys outside of Amari Cooper, no?
No, I don't think so.
Well, who's not just a guy?
I think Tillman's got a ton of potential. I think Njoku has a ton of... Njoku should be a frontline tight end.
But he's been in the league 6 years. He's never done it.
Elijah Moore is way better than you're giving him credit for.
What's he done?
Remember me saying this right now.
He hasn't done anything.
Come back. We're 3 games into the season.
But it's his third year in the league. I'm just saying he's unproven. He's unproven. He's never proven.
Okay, who has he been playing with? Who has he been playing with in New Jersey?
I mean Garrett Wilson had 1,000.
This big long rant. I gave you a big long rant about coaching and offensive design.
Well, wait a second.
The poor guy was stuck with Kyle Wilson and Mike LaFleur.
Wait a second.
Give him a chance here.
First of all, I am giving him a chance. I'm just saying he's unproven. We don't know that he's better than a guy. And Garrett Wilson had 1,000 yards.
He's
with
unproven
no
until he does it. But I'm telling you, you know what? Again, my feeling on this is that the Browns are extremely happy with their wide receiver room. And that they can run the ball well. They like Jerome Ford. They're bullish on Jerome Ford. Jerome Ford is cheap. Jonathan Taylor won't come cheap. And I don't think that the Browns believe that Jonathan Taylor changes their offense in such a significant way. I mean, heck, if anything, Deshaun Watson's biggest plays in Houston came when he didn't have a great run game.
That's fair.
We saw this past week when Deshaun Watson had to carry this team when it was finally, okay, the offense is not running through 2-4, the offense is running through me. Yeah. Deshaun Watson gave the Browns the best game that he's had so far in that uniform.
I think everything you say is fair, but it is fair to say at this point in their careers, David Njoku and Elijah Moore have never shown they're better than average. Isn't that fair to this point? I'm not saying they might not at some point, but to this point.
But Bull, it is fair because it's true.
Right? I mean, what have they done?
Okay, so here's their opportunity, right? Here's their chance. Everything is aligned.
I'll give you that on Moore, but Njoku is probably closer to the end of his career than the beginning of his career at this point in terms of years in the league. And he's paid like a top 3 tight end. He's never produced anywhere near that. And I'll hear potential on Tillman. I'll even hear potential on Moore.
Yeah, sure.
But you can't carry the word potential over into season 7 and still think that you're going to get dramatically different results.
I think that's very, very fair. What I can tell you is that the Browns believe that their offense runs through Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, and David Njoku.
And we'll find out at the end of the year if their belief
if they believe, that's all that matters.
No,
if
the
Browns believe, that's all that matters.
Aditi touched on this, but just the economics of it, you can't
sure.
do it. You can't, first of all, what capital do you have to give to Indianapolis for Taylor or to get Devontae
I'm not
Adams?
saying I don't think they're making any of those moves. I'm just
I know, but I don't even think it's
could always find
to talk
capital,
about it because would they like to have it? Yeah, I'd like to have a space shuttle, but I don't. And the reason I don't is because I can't afford one.
Well, the Browns can afford both.
Jay, you know what's so funny? My son keeps asking me to buy a Lamborghini. I don't know what planet.
A Lamborghini?
So I keep saying to him, I'm like, well, where would I put a car seat in a Lamborghini? And he says to me, I don't need one anymore. And I say, well, what about your sister? And he's like, well, we could just leave her at home.
Oh, man, I'm telling you, just another reason I love your son already.
Get the Lambo. Funny. Get the Lambo.
All right, are you getting the Lambo? Has he talked you into it?
Steve Becker would have to pay me a lot more than what I'm making now to get a Lambo.
No.
All right, Aditi, have a great call on Sunday, and we'll see you next week.
Bye, guys.
Bye.
I like your son's taste. Yeah. I mean, go big or go home.
Yeah, that's true.
Go for the Lambo.
Is he the Steelers fan or is he the Browns fan?
He's the Bills
fan.
Oh, he's the Bills fan.
Yeah, her daughter is the Browns fan.
Yeah. There it is. We're going to reveal the McNugget in 1 second. First, though, I have to remind the people where they should go if they need life-saving antibiotics. This is an easy decision, folks. I'm going to try doing a non-read read for. I'm not looking at any of the notes for this read.
Wow.
I'm an expert now on emergency antibiotics. And God forbid a situation ever occurs where you or a loved one needs emergency antibiotics. Who are you going to call? It's not Ghostbusters. It's you take your phone out, you go on Safari, you're actually not making a phone call, you're making a Google search for JaceMedical.com. That is JASE medical.com. If you use promo code LOCKDOWN, you can save $20 on top of the $360 you could potentially save with some other variations that I don't remember what it's for, but there's a lot of money you can save if you use JASE medical.com.
Well done. Well done. He's committed that to memory after 20 reads.
It was not
You should see how long this read is.
I know. You've said it's the longest read that we have.
It is absurd,
now,
but I think I did
need to take Mike into a class of doing live reads.
I want to talk about this for a second because I've never in my life thought, what am I going to do if I find myself in the situation where I suddenly need life-saving antibiotics? What leads to a situation like that? Like a snake bite?
Can I tell you the funniest thing real quick?
Yeah.
And I hope the locked it. It says, if you did not receive an example of these antibiotics, here's your read. Why would they just send me... what am I going to do with random antibiotics?
Mike, I think you should use them so you
Mike,
can do a first-person
Mike, by the way, it's not a great idea to rip the sponsor after you.
No, I'm asking questions about
it.
Our audience is likely saying,
did you not know?
Why would I need that?
Just like this. If you get bitten by someone, by an animal or dog, by rabies, if you do not get it cured in 3 days, it's uncurable.
I did not know that. So that would be an example where you need life-saving antibiotics.
Yes, you die.
And I bet you if you need them, JaceMedical.com, JASE.
There you go. So if you get bit by the stray random dog that's got rabies, you know who to call.
Snake bites.
Yes. And I'm sure there are a lot of other situations that might arise. You know, maybe you eat some bad seafood, which is why G and I stay away from it.
Yes.
I've been hearing a lot about that this summer. No, not if it's cooked properly.
So if seafood's cooked properly, it can still be bad? I don't think so.
Yes. It happened a lot this summer in New England.
Yeah? It's fishy.
I see what you did there.
You know what? That was a setup.
Let's transition from a fishy joke to a chicken nugget disaster. As promised earlier in the show, before you take it, Steve, once again a reminder, we have our Channel 3 logo, or Channel 3 graphic. Yeah. And as soon as Anthony sent that to the people upstairs, they suggested putting Mike's face on the chicken nugget, my face. And I said, no, that's a terrible idea.
Did you just refer to yourself in the first person?
He did.
I did, yeah. That was weird. So Anthony, they said, well, we'd like to see it. So this is what Anthony whipped up as the mock. And we shut this down so fast. Steve,
you shut this down so fast. Okay.
You see the connector piece?
Well, here's what I was so they made the McNugget the body.
Yeah.
I want his face inside of the McNugget like Gumby was. Can you call up a picture of Gumby on Tagboard? Because
I
a
don't know
lot of
what
our
we can and
audience
can't
probably
use on
doesn't
tag
even know who
wording.
the hell
Right.
Gumby is.
Yeah,
Oh,
no.
my God. No,
Gumby's
they don't.
funny, though.
It's funny, but wouldn't it be better if his face was
You want me superimpose like when the moon?
the nugget all
Yes.
around your face? Call up Gumby. Call up a shot of Gumby.
We're gonna not do that because I'm not quite sure what we have legal rights to on Tagboard at all anymore. So I'm just not gonna even get into that.
That's crazy.
So
yeah, you didn't
We
get that memo.
we are putting handcuffs on ourselves.
I'm
That's what we're
not
doing.
I'm not gonna get into that. Unfortunately, if you can find a
yeah.
tweet with Gumby in it, then we could show it.
How is that not public use?
Anyway.
I don't understand.
Mike,
Yeah.
God.
what do you got for us?
Oh my God.
Well, we got 5 minutes before our next guest joins us. So, do you guys want to start Fence Riders? Do we want to just filibuster for a few minutes here? Because I got a couple of things. Oh, we found Gumby on a tweet. It's not a great picture of his face, but this is
here we
Gumby
go.
on a tweet.
There's Gumby.
Yeah. See, his face is inside the little deal there.
Yeah, little deal.
Telling you, I think we should do that with Mike.
I feel like you need to look up the Eddie Murphy Gumby.
Skit on
and
Saturday Night
that's
Live.
What
That
I
was
want to see
brilliant.
Mike look like. Although, what's better, Eddie Murphy is Gumby or Eddie Murphy is Mr. Robinson, a.k.a. Mr. Rogers?
Yes.
Which one you taking?
Yes.
Taking them both.
Either one. I'm taking Eddie Murphy doing anything.
Yeah.
No one made me laugh like
Although
Eddie
Dan
Murphy.
Aykroyd's when he's the toy salesman selling all those dangerous toys for kids.
I
Have you ever
remember
seen
that skit.
That's one of the greatest skits ever
Is
in
it
the
really?
history. One of the toys is a bag of glass. It's a bag of, he does like the Chicago accent. He's like, this next product's a bag of glass.
I don't remember that.
You got to
at
go
all.
look at
I'll
that
Google
sketch.
that.
All right. Anyway.
Okay, so we're moving on. I think we're doing.
Should we do
no
Fence Riders?
right?
Start Fence Riders, Michael. You got something else you think we should hit on?
Yeah, we're gonna let's save Fence Riders
Okay.
because it's gonna be weird if we start, we get one
Yeah.
or two in, and then we stop. But I did have a different question that we may touch later, we may not. But when you look at this Browns-Ravens matchup on Sunday, it is in Cleveland. The Browns start the season with 4 to 5 home games. I know there's the bye week in between this game and the San Francisco game.
But that means we're on the road a lot from here on out.
I don't want to say how important is it to make sure you get this particular one because it's at home.
This is Mike's latest way of asking, is this a must-win?
I'm not asking. It's not a
Yes, it
must-win.
is.
But the schedule does line up where
It's a home divisional game. It's hugely important.
Thank you.
Hugely
They're all hugely important.
It's
17
more
games.
important than the Browns-Ravens game in Baltimore. Because most of us check that as an L. It's a road divisional game. You have to hold serve at home in your division. You have to.
I was asking more in the big picture where they start 4 to 5. Not even looking at San Francisco, but they lost to Tennessee.
Yeah.
I mean, they lost to Pittsburgh. So
Yeah.
they beat Tennessee. They beat Cincinnati. You have a chance to go 2-1 in the division.
They're 2-0 at home. They're 0-1 on the road.
Yes.
By the way,
You're at home
So
Sunday.
I guess the question is, how
you gotta win.
advantageous is it for the start to this season that they've had these 4 consecutive?
Mike,
with the one
I'm
between?
calling an audible here because I'm gonna. No, I don't want to. I just want to annoy you, and I don't want to talk about that.
Sure.
Let me talk about something else for a second, since we only have 2 minutes anyway. In baseball, the winning percentage of home teams. It's a similar vein.
Yeah.
The winning percentage of home teams in baseball this season is the lowest it's been in 24 years.
It's funny because the Guardians'
And I'm
record home and away is way out of whack.
Okay.
Over 500 at home, way under 500 on the road.
But overall, in baseball, it's the lowest winning percentage for home teams in 24 years. I'm going to keep an eye on this for football. What could we think of a reason why that would be?
In baseball, I can't.
But in baseball, it doesn't matter where you play. Like, I don't, as a baseball player.
It does having last licks.
Well, I will say this.
Game.
In the 2014 to 19 era, I don't have any, this is anecdotal.
Yeah.
Teams were way out of whack winning at home. Houston was among them. Why? Because they had a systemic
cheating,
sign stealing,
right,
built into their home games.
Yes.
They had the equipment. They had everything they needed when they were home.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at the home road splits for the Astros, both as a team and individually, there's no comparison. We should have known they were cheating. It's just like the media.
But they were a
missed
really
this-
good team, though.
They were a really good team, but they were subpar on the road when you compared to what they were doing.
Well, what are they this year?
I don't know. I haven't looked.
So are you
I
saying
don't know.
teams are cheating less?
I'm saying that if that is evened out to the biggest point that we've ever seen, and we know that there's no more sign stealing because every team is using PitchCom, So there's no more stealing signs. Maybe that's why we've seen the home team come back to earth.
I think baseball has the least amount of home field advantage in all the sports. I
agree with that because the pitcher has everything to do with it.
Yeah, college football. That's almost
NBA.
To me. College football. That's worth 14 points almost.
Well, no, only if it's two good teams or two equivalent teams. If Ohio State plays
they were just at Notre Dame, and they clearly was a hostile crowd, and they pulled out the victory.
Squeaky.
But you're right.
But
the
what I'm saying is
crowd is nuts. It's the craziest in all of sports.
Right, but it's only relevant if it's a good matchup.
Right, I agree with that.
Right,
but
if Ohio State's playing a MAC school,
I think what G is saying is in your big college football games, the home crowd can have a bigger impact on the game than a home crowd in the NBA, than a home crowd in Major League Baseball.
Steve's saying hockey is the least.
Yeah, hockey again, same thing.
Yeah.
Hot goaltender in hockey.
Yeah, hockey
you're going to ride a hot goalie.
In
baseball, it's your starting pitcher. In basketball, the home team does have a huge home court
NBA in the
advantage,
playoffs,
but only because of the officials.
Yeah,
the officials somehow
crazy.
It's baked into the officials' DNA that when you're home, you get the call.
And especially you got the crowd. The crowds are just like in basketball. Crowds go crazy. They get the calls. It seems your role players disappear in NBA.
Yeah.
You almost can't even count on the role players on the road. So
what are the Astros? What are their splits?
I'm going to bring it up right now.
But if you go back and you look into those late teen years when they were stealing signs and winning at a bizarre rate, they were better home than they were on the road significantly.
Well, Bull's looking up that. I'll answer a question we had earlier in the show.
Astros are actually significantly better on the road.
Isn't that interesting?
They're 48-30 on the road. Jeez. They're 39-42 at home. Under 500.
Wow. That's crazy.
That's a crazy split. You guys asked earlier how much Shelby Harris was playing. So Tomlinson, so far through 3 games, is playing 61% of snaps at defensive tackle.
I would expect that.
Elliott, Harris, and Mo Hurst are all within 2 percentage points of each other from 41% to 39%.
Yeah. I was going to say, I would have had them in the 30s.
Okay.
I mean, 41 to 39.
But
so
I think what that speaks to is what we already knew coming in. Jim Swartz likes to keep fresh legs in there and rotate them in.
How much is Alex Wright has played very well.
Alex Wright has made big plays when he's had the opportunity to play.
He played very well this year.
Yeah, man. I'm very pleased with Alex Wright because I'd kind of written him off.
And I think this, when you go back, you mentioned, you start talking about the Browns and the Ravens. It's one of those games where I think it makes people look at the Browns a little bit different, especially if the defense plays against Lamar Jackson. It's like, oh, okay, the Browns might be somebody.
All right. And with that, Mike, speaking of Browns-Ravens, let's bring in our next guest. He covers the Ravens for The Athletic. I am going to attempt to pronounce his last name, and I hope I do it right. Jeff Zerbeck. Jeff, how close was I?
Close enough. It's Zrebeck.
I'll do better next time,
yeah.
Jeff. But thanks for joining us today.
No worries.
Baltimore Ravens for The Athletic. He comes highly recommended from our own Athletic beat writer, Jason Lloyd. So, Jeff, we appreciate taking some time. And are you ready for Sunday?
My pleasure, guys. It's good to join you.
Is he ready? He's not playing. What is he doing?
No.
He's got to come to Cleveland. He's got to cover the game. He's got to
it's not like
write
it's a
about
long
this
trip
Browns
from
defense. I've
Baltimore
been a
to
beat reporter.
Cleveland,
You got to mentally prepare for this stuff.
Jeff, let's dive in on the game.
I'm actually driving too, guys, so it is a little bit of a long trip. For some reason, the flights this year it was a little too much for me to pay to come to Cleveland. So I'll be hopping in a car Saturday and heading over your way.
Well, safe travels. Jeff, let's talk about the game. I didn't see the whole Ravens game Sunday. I saw the parts after CBS put it on nationally. I wasn't overwhelmed by the offense at all. And I thought, if they get a couple of first downs, either in regulation or overtime, they're in Tucker's range and they probably close it out. And I know that there was a bad call, but where are the Ravens right now in terms of hitting on all cylinders? They're clearly not at 100%, at least not by my eyes. Where do you have them?
Yeah, no, there's no question. I mean, I thought they pretty much gave, not taking anything away from the Colts, but I thought they pretty much gave away that game Sunday. Mistakes on offense, not falling on turnovers. not executing on third down. I thought it was kind of a comedy of errors at different points, and that's why they're 2-1. But I think we all expected the offense to be a work in progress. This is a totally new system, and we knew it would take a little while for them to kind of be clicking on all cylinders. I think, the learning curve has sort of been lengthened, because A, none of these guys played in the preseason, and B, they've had so many injuries. And I think they went out in Cincinnati in week 2, and they played extremely well. And, they were taking some downfield shots and connecting on them. They ran the ball well. It's one of the better games Jackson has ever played in terms of, going through his reads, getting the ball to different guys. They were just in total control of that game. They outplayed the Bengals pretty well. And if not for, allowing a punt return touchdown, that game could have been pretty lopsided. So I think people expected that to continue. But no, they took a big step back offensively against the Colts. There's no doubt about that. I think they're still searching for their identity a little bit offensively. And I think they're still trying to make up for some of the injuries they've sustained, which they've struggled to do.
Jeff, we played the Cincinnati Bengals, and there was a little bit of, before the game, just, guys saying the Browns are the Browns, right? And traditionally, throughout the AFC North, the Browns have been, most times the worst team in the division, not being able to beat Pittsburgh, and definitely not having great, success against the Ravens. And that goes back to Joe Flacco and Lamar Jackson when he's played the full game. Is there a sense that the Browns are still the Browns, or is there a sense that, the Browns this year are a little bit different because of who they have at quarterback and just the way the defense is playing?
No, I mean, I don't think I don't know how you could look at that defense and come away and say the Browns are still the Browns. Not that the Browns haven't had good defenses in the past or haven't had good players at certain positions, and 24-6 for John Harbaugh against the Browns, but a lot of those games have been really close, and rarely have the Browns made it easy even on the best Ravens teams in these matchups. I think they understand what a challenge it's going to be. I mean, after losing to the Colts at home, you're really not in a position to look past anybody and say anything like the Browns are still the Browns. I think the Browns have the Ravens' full attention and full respect. I think they know they're going to have to play a lot better than they played certainly last week to win this game Sunday. And, I think especially when you look at the Ravens offense versus Browns defense matchup, they're going to have to do a lot of things better to keep themselves in that game, or that could get ugly Sunday if we don't see a better Ravens offensive effort.
Jeff, Roquan Smith, we heard all the comments of what he said yesterday in terms of going into Cleveland and beating a team up in front of their wife and their kids. A lot of people have taken that part of that text or part of that quote out of context, so of course it's going to be used as bulletin board material. I didn't look at it that way. I looked at it, actually, that whole comment he made as he was complimenting the Browns, saying they're very physical and they'd want to do the same to us. But things are taken out of context.
Yeah.
Has he been talked to about that? Any deal or no deal at all?
No. I mean, I didn't even, I was in the locker room. He was on the podium when he said it. I was in the locker room. But when they sent out the transcripts, I saw it. And it didn't even really dawn on me that there was going to be a big deal made about that, just because I thought it was pretty clear he was talking about just having to have that mentality when you go on the road, and that's what you need, not specifically anything about the Browns. But I will say this, Roquan Smith, he would fit in those old Ravens teams with Ray Lewis and Bart Scott and Terrell Suggs and those guys. Those guys like to talk. And I don't think Roquan Smith even looks at it as trash talk. I just think he's kind of talking more about his mentality and matter of fact. But these days, especially ahead of a rivalry game, it doesn't take too much to get people excited. And to be honest with you, I don't think Roquan is fazed by it at all. I think he's fine with having it on him. He talked a good bit before the Bengals game, too, and he was kind of the first one on the sideline at the end of the game, waving the Bengals goodbye on their home field and talking about, the victory after the game, and talking about how not everybody likes the Bengals too much. So he's not afraid to have it on him. But generally, I agree with you. I think the context of that quote, he's more talking about a mentality, not talking about particularly embarrassing the Browns.
By the way, I don't know if he's as good as those guys on the field, but he certainly can't be any worse than those guys in the media, right?
You mean in their broadcasting?
Yeah, I don't want to put you in that spot. I'm kidding. That's me saying that. That's me saying that, not you.
Way to not take the bait, Jeff.
Yeah, right.
He's been around long enough.
Bart Scott has said some mind-blowing dumb stuff.
Wild stuff at times.
Just like ridiculous.
I agree.
Yeah. In terms of this matchup specifically, I think when we look at the Ravens' defense, there's always an assumption that the Ravens and Steelers are always good on defense. And that's not always the case. The Ravens defense in recent years has been a little up and down. Obviously, they played a lot better last year once they got Roquan Smith. Where are they right now? How do you see them in the pantheon of defenses in the NFL in 2023 through 3 games?
I think they're a solid defense with some potential. I think they have a lot of young players on the defense that we've seen some in flashes, and by the end of the season, these guys could be, big-time difference makers. The safety, the first-round pick, Kyle Hamilton, has been really good early. Former first-round outside linebacker Dafe Owe got off to a really good start. Now he's hurt. Patrick Queen is probably having his best season playing alongside Roquan Smith. I think they've got a lot of interesting pieces there, but I don't think they're there yet. I think they're still kind of growing, a work in progress. They're really hurt on the edge. And, the concern is with no Marlon Humphrey, their top corner. I don't expect him to play Sunday. He hasn't practiced since like August 15th. So the concern was their cornerback group. Well, the cornerback group's been okay. They've played reasonably well. They certainly did a number on the Bengals receivers, which was a surprise. The problem has been the edge and getting pressure on the edge and, up front. They just haven't been able to generate a ton of pass rush without blitzing, and that's a concern. I mean, the best Ravens defenses usually have guys on that edge that can get to the quarterback. Jadeveon Clowney has actually done a nice job. He hasn't been the issue. It's the other guys who are – they're pulling guys off the practice squad and playing them high 40s, low 50s snaps a game just because of the injuries. They're without like four edge guys right now. I mean, on Sunday, we may see Kyle Van Noy play. He was just signed yesterday, and he hasn't, yesterday was his first NFL practice since January when he was with the Chargers. So that's how beat up they are on the edge, and I think that's the big concern about this defense. How do you generate consistent pressure? They really haven't been able to do it without blitzing, and if you keep blitzing, you're going to honestly be vulnerable on the back end.
Jeff, one of the guys that we have not mentioned or any of the skill guys for the Baltimore Ravens, Odell Beckham Jr. is, he's been out. He hasn't practiced much. And a guy like Mark Andrews, it's just like, at one point in time, I saw him right underneath Kelsey is the way they really used him in Baltimore. He was one of the guys that scared everybody as one of the tight ends. Has it been frustrating that he hasn't gotten loose a little bit? And where do you guys stand in terms of your skill positions in the vertical passing game?
Yeah, Andrews missed the first game. He was hurt, and I think he's still kind of getting healthy. He did have a decent showing. Touchdown against the Bengals, played reasonably well. Then he was quiet this past week. I think the concern, particularly this week with them, is just the Bengals, obviously, with their linebackers, their defensive backs, they have the speed to take away, they have the speed to really take away the middle of the field and still be able to kind of shut off things on the edges if Lamar wants to run. And I imagine they'll spend a ton of attention on Mark Andrews. He's had his best games against Cleveland in the past. He's sort of been a thorn in their side a little bit. But yeah, he's been fine. They're still trying to find themselves on offensively. They had this upgrade the receiver group. I think first-round pick Zay Flowers has been as advertised for the most part. But they really haven't had consistency with their other targets. I still think they're trying to kind of figure it out and get the ball distribution ratio right and make sure they're getting other guys involved. And they just haven't found that correct mix yet. And now they're going to probably go into Cleveland a couple guys short. Bateman, their former first-round pick, is dealing with a hamstring. Beckham, I thought, would play Sunday, and maybe he still will. But we haven't seen him on the practice field in about 10 days. And if he's not practicing on Thursday, I have a hard time believing he's going to play on Sunday after missing so much time. So they're hurt there on the outside too, and obviously that affects Mark Andrews because, if you don't have to honor him on the outside, you can kind of clog that middle and try to take away Andrews.
Jeff, give us your prediction. Who you got in the game?
I picked the Browns. was working on this for a story I'm writing Saturday. I kind of picked a low-scoring, like a 2013. I'm thinking of picking a 2013, 21-13 type game. I just don't. I don't see how the Ravens are going to consistently move the ball against this Browns, this Browns defense. They're quick. Blocking Myles Garrett and Zadarius Smith is one thing. The DBs are playing great. It just looks like a complete defense. And the timing for the Ravens going in there when they still really haven't figured things out offensively and they're so banged up at key spots, I don't think the timing is very good for them to go out there and beat a good team on the road.
Jeff, we appreciate the time, man.
Great stuff,
Jeff.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Have safe travels to Cleveland and back to Baltimore.
Looking forward to it, guys. Always good talking to you.
Very good.
Thanks, Jeff.
The point that he made early in the segment was that these games are always close.
Yeah.
The Ravens-Browns games are typically a couple of points. They seem to always be in the teens.
I don't care about that, Jay. The Browns always lose them. That's all that matters.
Not always.
They got, almost always.
Well, they have a better record against Baltimore than they do against Pittsburgh, historically.
What's their record against Harbaugh?
It's not good.
24-6.
Yeah, that's horrible.
Yeah, it's not good, but look
they
at
got
the
to
record
win.
against Tomlin.
No points for close losses?
No, I wasn't saying let's play them close and lose.
I know you weren't.
I was pointing out what he said, and it's true.
It is true.
These games are always, with the Ravens, are always smash mouth, hard-hitting, physical, and typically close and lower scoring.
But the Browns almost always find a way to lose these games. That's
Let's
got to
turn it around.
That's got to end
Let's
this Sunday.
turn it around.
Who's ever won the division, if you go back and traditionally look at it, has had the better quarterback. If you look back,
that's the case in the NFL.
So
you have the better quarterback, you have the better chance of winning.
This is an opportunity where you say Deshaun Watson looks at it, and it's the first. I'm excited about this because we finally get to see Deshaun Watson versus Lamar Jackson head-to-head, and which style works, which style is going to work better. And finally, you can say, all right, well, now it's a toss-up because we've been on the short end of the stick when it comes to quarterbacks for years.
We have. I want to get excited about the Watson, particularly the way you framed that to Aditi.
Right.
You're taking Watson or you're taking Jackson. Now, unfortunately, they're not really going head-to-head. They'll never be on the field at the same time.
Sure, yeah.
And Watson is going against what so far has been a mediocre Ravens defense, while Jackson will be going against what so far has been a historically great defense through 3 games.
Right.
So I think the degree of difficulty is far greater for Lamar Jackson, and when has that ever been the case in this matchup?
Has not.
We have always said, if nothing else, not even looking at the quarterbacks, we have always said, well, the Ravens clearly have the better defense.
Right, not the case.
Not this time.
No.
Not this time.
No.
We got a couple super chats, and then we're going to talk a little bit about Terry Francona's final home game here in Cleveland. Whenever we bring you super chats, it's brought to us by our dear friends over at PCC Airfoils. We're looking for a job with career advancement and great benefits. Well, PCC Airfoils is the leading manufacturer in Northeast Ohio. All locations of PCC Airfoils at Eastlake, Menor, Wickliffe, and Minerva are hiring for all positions starting at $18 and up, plus full benefit packages, paid time off, and a signing bonus. You can apply online at precast.com/careers to learn more. We're going to fly through these real quick. First one is for UG. Skilly says he bought a white Kool-Aid Mafia hoodie, but he got a notice 2 weeks later that you don't offer it. Is the white one ever coming back? It's the color I want, and it's still showing online. Do you know if that's coming or what's happening with that?
Well, tell him to email me at my email address, gbush91 at hotmail.com, and we'll figure it out.
Or he can hit the Chinese
You
website.
still
They
in the
have plenty
Hotmail
of
world?
them.
Yeah, I stay at the Hotmail. Or you could go to China and get the joint, and they'll probably send it to you 6 months from now. But we'll figure
And
it
the
out.
wrong size.
Yeah, and listen, with phonetics and cast, it just won't be right.
So Skilly, hit up G Bush. His email gbush91 at hotmail.com.
Let's take a second too. We joke about that, but if you're going to order one of the sweatshirts, make sure it's from G Bush. Because if you search Kool-Aid Mafia, 1,000 sites are selling this thing. And G doesn't get any of that money.
No, the wrong thing is if you order it, you may never get the shirt.
Right.
Like, if they don't send it, some of these sites are scams. So you give them your money and then it doesn't come. So the cool thing about it is, we just sold hundreds of these T-shirts, and the cool thing about it is we haven't had no complaints. People get their stuff on time, and that's the way logistics works, being a great businessman. Hit me up if you got any problems, and we'll figure it out.
Do you have a Kool-Aid cologne yet?
I don't have but I do have a cologne. It's called Nocturnal. And
I know you have a cologne.
Yes.
But you might need a Kool-Aid cologne.
That's crazy.
Specifically for Browns fans who believe.
Believers.
All right, next up, Broady's bottom line says, didn't Ray Lewis play for the Ravens? Yes, he did. Damian Frederick said, going to my first Browns home game on Sunday. Food recommendations in the city. Everyone give one real quick. Food recommendation, first time in Cleveland.
Sleepy Rooster for breakfast.
Oh, good call. That's right down the street from my house.
Dang, bro.
Oh, it's great.
Earl says Slyman's.
Slyman's is obviously.
G, give the
if
people
you've got
Jack's Deli in South Euclid.
The Buckeye Picker said, what about this nickname for the defense? Rock and Rush.
That's lame.
Yeah, bad.
Right.
Rock and Rush. What is it, a women's basketball team?
Is the Marble Room.
You
might have to take out a loan. But the Marble Room.
Listen,
I love that place.
You ain't taking no date. Do not take a date there if it's a second or third.
No, that's engagement material.
That's we together, and I need to borrow $20 tomorrow.
Yeah.
It might be more than 20.
So we're going to do
get you a glass of water there.
20 is a cover charge.
But if there's no experience dining-wise, like the Marble Room, I'd say in the state of Ohio.
Yeah, we're going to do a couple fence riders in overtime now because we didn't get time to do them today. We'll save the rest for tomorrow on the TV version of UCSS. But we got to talk about Terry Francona, his final farewell to the Cleveland fan base yesterday. Jay, did you go to the game?
I did not, no. I worked the 5. I wanted to go. I got to tell you, when I was leaving WKYC, I specifically didn't go down 9th because I knew it was going to be crazy because we showed in our 5 o'clock show live pictures of the line outside of Progressive Field.
And we didn't think it was going to be like that.
We did not.
Yeah.
And I have to give it up to Cleveland Guardians baseball fans because when I was leaving, the alternative route that I takes me about 8 blocks east of 9th. And I try to sneak out of town that way.
Yeah.
I saw fans. It was 6:15. The game was already started. I saw fans walking from where I was driving, which was 5, 6, 7 blocks away from the stadium, and they hadn't even, obviously they didn't get there for the start of the game. They came out in force to support Tito. I thought the game was perfect. Bieber pitched a gem, which I'm sure management was thrilled with because now they can trade him and get a little bit of value because the last outing, he got shelled. He looked like Shane Bieber last night. Also, they went out to a 4-0 lead. They chipped away. Clase came in the 9th. He leads the league in saves. He leads the league in blown saves. He gets the first guy out. They get a double. Would look like a double. They called him out at second base. They reviewed it. They kept the call on the field, and I'm not sure that they got that right. And then Clase got the final out. When Tito came out to tip his cap, he wanted it to be out, tip your cap, go back.
Yeah.
Jose Ramirez blocked his path back into the dugout. He was blocking the steps to come back. So he had to stay out there and acknowledge the fans, and it was a thing of beauty. And then at one point, the whole Guardians team sort of circled that way, so he had to stay out there. It makes Terry wildly uncomfortable to be in the spotlight, but I loved every second of it because you could tell, you could feel the love both ways.
By the way, shout out to our guy Jerry Ferrara who threw a solid first pitch.
He did.
He was worried about it. He threw a ball, but it was a good,
it didn't
reached
bounce
home
it.
plate. He didn't bounce it.
Yeah.
It was caught.
Someone else threw out a first pitch. I don't know who it was.
Yeah.
And I was getting the raw feed from Progressive when I was on the set for the 5 yesterday, and that person bounced it. But it was shot so loosely I couldn't see who threw it. But it clearly wasn't Jerry.
But in terms of Francona, it's really weird because I'm just so down on the Guardians right now.
I am too.
That it's hard to get like emotional about Francona. I don't know what it's just I hate the way it's ending.
Yeah, I do too. I'm emotional though. I was very emotional yesterday.
I'm like you, man.
I'm not ready for this.
To me, this is why I always be preaching to go. Like sports is about going after every year. I know you got to have some down years, and I know every year can't be your year to win. But I want to. It irks me that he rolled out knowing he did not have the backing to go out and at least try to go for it.
And I don't know that didn't play into his decision. I don't. I mean, I don't think Jerry would ever say that. I know that when the team waved the white flag, because they could have been buyers, they could have been sellers. They were very close at the deadline. They were only a few games behind the Twins. Management decided, not this year, we're sellers. And
those weren't the only options. They could have stood pat.
They could have stood pat. I would have been happier with that.
You could have lived with that.
But to me, this is an outsider, and this is just a guess. I have no inside information that this is how it played out.
Yeah.
There is a little bit of breadcrumbs, though, that might lead you to make this assumption.
Sure.
The team, the next night, got no hit in Houston. And they looked like a team that wanted to be anywhere but where they were.
Yeah.
If I'm in that clubhouse, hell yeah, I'm upset. Your bosses just said, we don't believe in you, so we're going to see if we can get another middle infielder in a trade.
But didn't they
or whatever.
Didn't they owe that to him? At least owe that to him to say we're going to
let it play out.
Yeah,
you're close enough at 2 games out or whatever they were when all these trades, when the Savali trade happened. You're close enough. Add a piece. Add 2 pieces. Go all in. Here's what I hate most about it. In the previous 11 seasons before Francona became manager, this team was in the playoffs once. During his 11-year tenure, they were in the playoffs 6 times, more often than not. He had 1 sub-500 season prior to this year. Yeah. He was 80-82.
Now,
if they win out this year, no matter what, they've got 3 games left. This is going to be his worst season in Cleveland. Yeah. I hate that it's ending on that note, and I don't know that Terry didn't finally say, you guys aren't giving me what I need.
No.
They're outfielders. They're starting outfield. Combined for 11 home runs. Bull, that's got to be a modern day.
Give us the stat you gave us yesterday in the group chat about the outfield.
3 players for the Braves have more home runs than the entire Guardians team.
Stat I gave?
Yeah, just say, give us the stat you gave us in the group.
Well, how do I know you're talking to me? Jay was the one who was talking.
No, it was Bull's stat. Bull sent something the other day that said the Braves have 3 players.
I said, Bull, give us the stat.
That if you add up those home runs, they've hit more home runs than the entire Guardians team.
The top 3 home run hitters on the Braves have more home runs than every single player that's taken.
So what you saying is left fielder more than our 3 outfielders, center fielder.
No, they're not all outfielders.
No,
I'm Braves
saying
top 3 home run hitters.
Acuna Jr., Matt Olson, and I can't remember.
Their third baseman.
Oh, and Austin Riley.
Austin Riley.
Those 3 guys on the Braves,
if you add up their home runs,
have hit more home runs combined than every player on the Guardians combined.
And Bull,
in a third of the plate appearances.
Will Benson came up yesterday.
Yeah.
And I looked at his stats, and I knew he was having a pretty good year.
Yeah.
This was a guy, I think, was he a first-round draft pick?
He was.
The Guardians just almost surprisingly gave up on him. They flashed his stats on the screen yesterday. He's got 11 home runs. He's got as many home runs as our entire starting out. No, it's not a ton, but Bull, he's hit as many home runs as our starting outfield.
Well, Nolan Jones has hit 19 home runs this year.
And he's hitting for average, too.
Yes.
These are 2 guys that the Indians drafted highly that they just gave away.
And it wasn't like they came out of nowhere. They were both big-time prospects.
Yes, but they on both of those guys, I was like, wow, they're giving up on these guys already?
Right.
Do you know what the most baffling stat when I look at the Guardians' offensive numbers are this year? Jose Ramirez played in 153 games.
Right.
He has 600 plate appearances. He's hitting 280 and has 80 RBIs.
What's baffling about that?
Ain't nobody on the
No one's on base for him to hit.
Nobody on the base.
Oh, I see what you're saying.
Ain't nobody on the pond.
It is hard to believe that he's played 153 games. The dude's an RBI machine. He's hit 170 hits, and just no one's on base.
Look at
Josh had a great season,
but no, it's not a great season. Look at Josh Naylor.
Naylor has 97 RBIs in 118 games.
Look exactly. Look at the time that he's missed. And by the way, I want to give Josh Naylor credit. Because last year,
every year he had not hit lefties.
Every year he had not hit. Now he's young; he's 26 years old. We had said this guy's career is never going to be what it can be because he is a liability in the lineup against left-handed pitching.
Right.
He hit below 200 last year. In the offseason, he worked on that and worked on that and worked on that. And this year, if I'm not mistaken, he's hitting 300 against left-handed pitching this year. That is a testament to how hard this guy works and how much talent he has. Guys, he's 26. He is a superstar in my mind.
Here's the most underrated story in the game right now. We've all looked at the Guardians as the most stable. You've been able to do that because you had Tito at the top of at the dugout steps. Now you're counting on the front office and a question mark on the bench to figure out.
And they got to go outside the organization, in my opinion.
I think they will. Sandy's been with the organization forever. Sandy Alomar Jr., he's the first base coach. Personally, I'd love to see him get a try. I really do. He's been loyal to this team. He's had opportunities, I'm sure, to go elsewhere and, if not manage, coach. I'm not sure he's going to get it because I think if he was the guy, they would have already made that announcement or it would come this weekend.
I think this is the first time, at least since I've been here in 2011, that the Guardians are in the worst shape of the three organizations.
Yes.
I think it's the first time in a long time.
It's a lot of question marks.
Yeah, you might be right. Now, they still have a lot of pieces coming back. They do. They have a lot of pieces. They've got nice arms.
A lot of these young pieces got a lot to prove, and Shane Bieber's going to be traded.
I know, but when you look at what Gavin Williams did this year.
I hear you, but the lineup is so bad.
I know, but they've got some young pieces.
Thank you, Tito. Thank you.
Thank you, Tito. We love you, but overall, the front office.